it's like, oh, Saw needs to be getting the recognition. He's such a good coach. He's done it again. It's like, when has Saw not gotten recognition? When he was in the team with Snappy, Snappy's talking him up. The big boss, little boss. We're talking about him as a good coach since then. He just did it with the last iteration of the team with Shush and Twistzz. They were still competitive. It was still a good roster. And then I see this dialogue again by people who should know better on Twitter. And I'm like, are you just tweeting shit for the sake of fucking tweeting shit now? Like, is that not an opinion that you actually hold before this thing? It's like, if you didn't hold that opinion before, I'm a little bit worried about you. What do you mean Saw needs to get the credit? It's like, Saw already had the credit. He's one of the best coaches we have in the game. What the fuck am I reading, man?
The world is changing quickly. Shut up. The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.
Hello, gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe. Welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. We're coming to you hot, direct, and live into your living rooms, 21st of January, 2025. Shout out to the sponsors. It's 1xBet. Remember to gamble responsibly. And Skin Place. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about some recent news through the vehicle of Skinionaire. We're going to jump into more VRS circuit updates, jumping into Blast Bounty so far. And if there's time, maybe closing down with IEM Katowice opening stage matches. All right. I didn't get the lower third for Striker to Lucas in time before I timed out. So what I would like it to be for Striker is loves pussy and then in brackets cats. That's what I'd like for Striker. Striker, let's start there, confirm. Shall we? What is the most annoying things that pussies do in your life? That's cats.
They fucking scratch the curtains and at night sometimes, which is annoying as fuck, and they sometimes fight during the night, so that's not great because you can't really keep them out of the bedroom, because if you keep them out of the bedroom they're going to scratch on the door. So it's effectively life's fucked sometimes, but they got better with age, so at least there's that.
Do they run over your head while you're sleeping?
No, they don't do that. They used to do that a lot though, when they were kittens.
Do you tire them out throughout the day, or do you just accept your fate that they're a nocturnal animal?
They're fine. They're much better now. I mean, they were kind of crazy. They were like every time just after midnight they got crazy, and like after 6 a.m. they got crazy. So now it's just some days effectively. So it's much better.
Okay, so scratching the curtains. We'll see if we can generate enough subs to get you some new curtains. Prof, now for you, your lower third is closet anime fan. Last week I think I had it as Dan to Dan enjoyer.
Yeah.
I'm now only elite level anime watchers would have got that reference. Do you think the people at home are aware that you consume anime?
I mean, I think I surprise people with a lot of facts about me that are not public knowledge. So I think the anime one also probably caught people off guard. I don't give off the anime enjoyer, I would say,
Energy.
front maybe. So that's pretty nice. I have to say, I didn't watch anything new. I'm open to recommendations on my Twitter or Instagram, which I intend to use more this year. My goal this year, I'll put it out, 10K followers on Instagram. But that's
Wow.
it. I'm putting it out there.
What is it? What is it now?
It's like 1K.
Oh, whoa. That's a big jump.
I'll be
do a giveaway.
consulting. I'll be consulting Jacob Pip Vinicky as the growth expert, and not just on social media.
Here's a tip that Jacob, I don't know if he gives it out to people, but it's a strategy that he employs on Instagram. A lot of people are looking to kind of curate more followers. This is a strategy that they'll use. If you are a verified user, now, Prof, I don't know if you're a verified user or not. I know you can apply, but if you are a verified user, you comment on like any pictures or whatever that a lot of people would follow, like exactly, and then your comment will go to the top, so people will see it, and then by that process, you should be able to pick up the casual follower or two.
That is, I'll implement this for sure.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, happy to see that unfold. Lucas, we spoke about anime. We spoke about pets. Do you have a story about either of those things? All right. Cool. All right. Well, that was nice, Lucas. All right. Well, let's get straight into things, shall we? Let's get into the recent news for tonight. As mentioned, I've done a Skinionaire, which is going to be kind of going through some of the recent things that have happened. Now, not all of them. There's some little news stories, not crazy. And I thought this could be a fun way to go over the news and also do it in a quiz format. And then if there's anything here that we leave off, Prof or Striker, that you guys feel is newsworthy from recent times you want to talk about, we can talk about it, and then we can move into the VRS stuff and the Blast Bounty. All right, let's jump in. Lucas, are you ready with Skinionaire?
No.
It's like I'm talking to a fucking brick wall tonight, isn't it? All right, we're going to be doing this one here is brought to you by SkinPlace. Everybody, if you're in the market to sell some skins, head over to SkinPlace. And this is very early in the show. So guess what? We're going to have more limited people here who could be winning the potential $50 skin that is on the line for tonight's skin. You type SkinPlace in chat right now. That's your raffle ticket. You spam it as many times as possible, but only one counts. All right, so SkinPlace in chat right now and get that one in. You don't need the exclamation point. And away we go. All right, this week's Skinionaire. Let's get off to question number one. The two of you can do this together. Should be quite an easy one this week. That's not even a joke this time around. I haven't put a lot of effort into today's. According to Gooseman, Gabe has a collection of what? Ostrich eggs, VAC band players' souls, or knives?
Mongolian throat singing song sheets.
Tracks.
The knives. The knives is the fun fact that came out of the interview from Belgrade.
All right. Well, for those who don't know who Gooseman is, one of the original creators of Counter-Strike, no longer works for Valve, did an interview during his time at the award show, and that was a little tidbit that came about it. Mr. Gabe Newell,
Did you watch the whole
mysterious
thing?
man. No, I didn't. What else did you say for it? Did you watch it?
No, I didn't.
All right. Well, maybe the people in chat did. If anyone in chat has anything interesting that happened with it, let us know. All right, that's one from one. Question number two. Oscar, LMBT, and Stiko have reunited under what team name? The Circle, aka Carlos's project, Inner Circle, or Hip to be Square?
Actually, I was kind of bamboozled by the name because I thought about Carlos instantly when I saw like Circle being mentioned, and I was like, what the fuck? But no, it's the Inner Circle. It's the Inner Circle.
Yep.
I'll be locking in Inner Circle. Correct answer is Inner Circle. They got a couple of Danes over there. Lucas, how do you say that? Now, Lucas, I need you to reply straight away. I can't have you leave dead air, okay? So I'm giving you a lead time right now. Fess is over there. He's Danish, but there's another bloke, Q-Q. How are we saying that guy's name?
Cuckoo.
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 Okay.
That's one of the names. One of the names of all time.
We got that Cuckoo. All right, at least I know I'm learning something today. And Krasnow from Monty fame. Obviously, he had some time with LMBT. Okay, that's a new little project that's being put together. If you guys want to check out what they're getting up to, see what tournaments they find themselves in. All right, 2 from 2. Question number 3. Remember, keep typing SkinPlace in chat. Your opportunity to win the giveaway. Okay, Rare Adam lost to who in the Extreme Land semi-finals? Tyloo, Semperfi, or Ox/OX?
Ooh.
It's XO.
It's XO?
It's
Oh,
XO.
see?
XO,
See, there you go.
Gossip
And it
Girl.
is XO. It is actually XO.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just two fucking letters. Well, we'll be locking in COX, which is meant to read XO, and the correct answer is XO, who went on to win the tournament. Who the fuck are XO, you're all saying?
That is a question. I did see this, and I was like, how'd this happen? How did this happen, actually?
It's a great question. I don't think anybody could really tell you. And the final was against ATOX, so a Mongolian team that has the likes of Dobu and Cabal. Maybe the people at home are more familiar with those guys. But this team has Osama, Senpai, Oscar, Dodal, and a Ukrainian player.
Paul Bandana.
Paul Bandana. So
Very random mix. I've never heard. I haven't heard 4 of these names before.
Yeah, Osama's legendary for his one match performance at EWC last year, like 1.60 rating or something in the local team.
Right. Yeah.
They lost, of course, but it was epic. Fantasy players remember.
But it's kind of wild that they won this event, right? I think beating Rare Adam and Atox in the playoffs is actually pretty good. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I know Rare Adam aren't any world beaters, but they're still an established roster. I know it's start of the season. This is on land, so shout out to XO, whose name I got wrong.
I mean, Tyloo was also there. GJ was there. I'd see. So like some pretty decent teams. From what I see, they are just Saudi Arabian qualifier, unranked team completely, and winning it. Kind of crazy. Wait, 40,000 first place?
Yeah, not bad. I don't know if it was it a VRS event, Striker? I'm looking at you.
No.
Okay, well, there you go. That kind of sucks. We'll get more into that
from
later.
last year, right? So like a lot of these spots were had nothing to do with the VRS, or even none of them. It was all qualifier stuff, I think.
Okay, well, XOXO Gossip Go. Congratulations to them. Moving on. That's a boomer reference. Maybe some of you out there might get it. Question number 4?
4.
Question number 4. The 5th installment of IEM Australia has been announced in what city? Whoop Whoop, Tittybong, or Melbourne?
Are there such places?
By the way. They're all real places.
Striker, do you know where it is?
Are these actual places?
These are real places. I swear to God.
I want to see what Tittybong looks like. Like it just sounds like you know, if you had a stone guy and like asking him to come up with like his dream city, he would probably go with something like that.
There are some wild places, but we'll lock in the correct answer, shall we? But yeah, if you take a look at some of the wildest like towns or whatever named in Australia, there's some crazy places. Whoop Whoop, I think, was like a sawmill somewhere in Western Australia, but also like in Australia, if you're gonna reference the middle of nowhere, you say, oh, it's out in Whoop Whoop, right?
Okay.
So that's like
I think Tittybong, like googling Tittybong also turns up a middle of nowhere kind of place. There's a Tittybong historical landmark, and that landmark place is just the sign Tittybong.
Yeah, it's a great name.
That's hilarious.
So the reason to bring up this news is IEM Spring was finally announced, even though Striker leaked it a couple of episodes ago. But it was officially announced by ESL. I believe there was some holdup, with some governmental processes that had to go through. But that's been announced, and it'll be taking place in the Rod Laver Arena. And those people who are semi-familiar with the tennis might know that the Australian Open, which is on right now, takes place in the Rod Laver Arena. So that's where it's going to be going down.
That's why they're waiting for the announcement. It was announced by Novak Djokovic himself, of course, right? Yes. He was like, IEM Sydney, are you ready? We're moving to Melbourne. It was huge. It was
He's
insane.
been embroiled in a bit of, he hasn't been embroiled in a bit of controversy lately, but I didn't actually watch it. There was like a Channel 9. We have like 3 main channels in Australia, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10. Great. We're really creative here. But Channel 9 have the broadcasting rights for the Australian Open in Australia. And there was like an interviewer, or I don't know what the fuck he was, but he said something. I don't know. I didn't actually watch it, so I don't actually know what he said. But he said something that upset Novak. It was meant to be disrespectful, and everybody was clowning on this guy. So even Nick Kyrgios is clowning on him. So he definitely said something that was out of place. I don't know what was said. I didn't watch it because I don't give a single fuck about tennis. But yeah, Novak didn't give an interview in the arena after one of his match victories because he said, "Look, I'm not giving this to Channel 9 until this guy apologizes." And I don't know if he's apologized yet or not. But that was a bit of drama that's happened at the Australian Open recently.
Fun fact.
But yeah, so Rod Laver Arena, one of the keys with this is it's Anzac Day weekend, which is a pretty busy weekend, and it's in Melbourne. So the other big deal with that is Australia is known, well, it's not known for, but in Australia, the most popular sport is a sport called Australian rules football. People might have seen this with the oval ball. We've got like there's 4 big posts at either end. It's a big oval. That's like our main sport. And on the Anzac Day weekend, Anzac Day is to do with the is it commemoration? I think that's the wrong word. It's where we remember the soldiers who went and fought for our country and all that kind of stuff. So that is a big football weekend as well. So if anybody from Australia is planning on going to this event, you want to book tickets ASAP because that's going to be like a fucking bonkers weekend with hotels and flights and everything like that. So yeah. Anyway, there you go. 5th and final question. Let's do it. The last time ESL Pro League was held with a sizable crowd was in what city? Malta, Dusseldorf, or Rants? Now, this is obvious. This
could
is a
have made it a
subjective
bit
answer.
harder. This you could have. Oh, sizable. You could have made it a bit more difficult. It's Odense. It's 2019, and isn't that the one that Maus won? And like where the clip comes from, where he's just slamming the that's the one.
That was the one.
All right.
All right. Well, it's locked in, and the correct answer is Odense. Malta, very, very small crowd, probably about 200 people. Dusseldorf was, as we were coming out of the pandemic, it was done in a hotel where everything was kind of kept in a bit of a bubble-ish status. Not really, but kind of ish. There was no crowd there. And the reason that this one comes up is ESO also announced where the second season of Pro League is going to be this year. I believe that's because Valve was saying, hey, you guys got to fucking say where this shit's going to be.
Okay.
Have I timed out again?
No, it just lagged out for me, I guess.
No, it was fine.
Shit.
Okay, it was fine for me.
Fuck out. I thought my internet had gone again. My heart skipped a beat. Anyway, they've announced that it's going to be in Stockholm as well. And maybe for the second season, it might be different, but I'm pretty sure for the first season, there'll be no crowd. There'll be no audience or whatever. So I assume for the second, there probably won't be either. So that's a bit sad. But it's 5 out of 5.
I'll be outside of the gates, just waiting, looking at players. I'll cosplay like Chinese fans. Just be there. Waiting for signatures outside in the freezing cold of Stockholm in March, -10 probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Prof. I appreciate that. If you
Sounds
could
like a
clone
plan.
yourself and maybe bring several hundred, that'd be great. All right. Well, that's 5 from 5. So we're giving away a $50 skin this evening. And the winner is, let me zoom in. The winner is Keborned. Is that what that says? Keborned. Been following for 8 months. Keborned. Keborned. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Anyway, Lucas will reach out to you and get you sorted with your $50 skin. Congratulations. And that's been Skinionaire, brought to you by Skin Place. Great. Beautiful. Was there any other recent news, guys, that I don't have listed on the topics tonight that you guys wanted to discuss? There was some other smaller roster changes, like the Phelps to Red Knids just came in, YaLLa taking over coach at 9Z, Sanji's back with 1 win. Anything exciting?
Nothing really jumped off the page for me, to be honest. Alex returns to the Spanish guys. Lucan
Mopos
makes
is there, Davy G.
3rd comeback. Obviously, Skyesports we're going to talk about, and all of these big ticket items in terms of like the tournaments and stuff like that. We're going to talk about a bit later. So I don't think anything. It's like Cloud9 continues to part ways with players.
Well, they've left Perfecto on the bench, and they have Groove still as the coach, right? So that's it.
I think that's it because Binters is now gone too.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Still no like clear statement from them about anything, but I guess that's how they have been operating for the last 2 years or so. So no surprises.
We do have a little bit of a heads up. We do have a Perfecto interview coming up. Note did an interview with him back in Belgrade. Where he was
really?
attending.
I didn't know they managed to do that.
Yeah. So we have, I think it might be even released today. So keep an eye out for that one. There's some kind of cool little tidbits of info about like, the offers he got over time and like why it didn't work out, stuff like that, So yeah.
Probably wanted to clear up the message after was it Overdrive who said it?
Yeah. There's actually a really funny line in that. So I really hope people read it because it was just like the Gun 5 slander did not stop with Twitter. Let's just say that.
Okay. All right. Well, that's exciting. Keep your eyes peeled for that one, everybody. Okay. We can keep the show rolling. We can jump into, I guess, what is going to be one of the main bodies of conversation tonight. There's two big blocks. One of them is going to be these VRS circuit updates. Another is going to be the Blast Bounty. And then everything else is if we have time, essentially. So let's jump straight into it. I will give the abridged version, and then we'll turn our attention to Striker to try and give a little bit more detail on this. But one of the keys that had come out was Mira put out a tweet, I think it was last week, asking if there was anybody, having trouble getting into some of these events. To let him know, to go to him with their experiences. And an article that you guys put out that Milky featured in, Polish player. The long and the short of all of this is that there were certain tournament organizers, YaLLa and CCT being the main offenders, I believe, were not following the rules and regulations that Valve had put in place for the VRS for 2025. They were skipping teams throughout the rankings. And this was something that I either mentioned here or I mentioned on Talking Counter or I mentioned on both, because last year I was playing a pug. I think I was playing with Masked and DGL. DGL people might know from Pera. And we were chatting. I was like, oh, where are you going next, DGL? Like, what are you going to do? Because Pera had collapsed at that point. And he was like, oh, I don't know. And then we were talking about, them not getting the invites to certain tournaments. And that's based off of these bans that CCT don't make public, but are essentially as far as I understand, that there's teams who they believe are involved in some form of match fixing. So yeah, look, the problem here is the tier 2 tournaments that I've named were not complying with what Valve put in place, regardless of this other stuff I was just discussing. They were not complying with the rules as is. So Striker, do you want to fill everybody in with the details that I've missed?
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is exactly what you were saying with CCT. They skipped. We went through the ranking of the date that they said that they were going to invite all these teams, which was, I think, December 31st. That's actually non-compliant as well because they have to use the monthly one, so they should have used the one from early January or early December. But I mean, that's a fairly minor problem, right? But the ranking that they used, we went through it. It turned out that they skipped something like 10 teams, and we checked with all these teams, and they said they never got invited. They never got even approached. Or actually, from CCT, they did get approached saying, they were listing that little rule that allows them to disqualify a team based on 5 different reasons. One of them could be the integrity problem. One of them could be failure to comply with rules in the past. There's a lot of kind of like a very wide net with the rule that they listed as the reason for skipping that invite or for not giving them that invite. So that obviously was a problem because in Valve's rulebook, it says if you do make disqualification decisions, you can make disqualification decisions, but you have to publicize them at the time when they happen. And you also have to publicize rules that allow you to, that you can kind of explain why you've banned these teams, right? So you can't just ban teams without notifying the public about what these players or teams are and why you've banned them, right? And CCT hasn't done that. I mean, they only said to those teams, listing that little vague rule that doesn't really say actually the specific reason that they got skipped over, right? So that was the problem why that tournament was not compliant. We got in touch with Valve about it. They said, okay, that's not that's unless they became more transparent about it, that's not a ranked event in our mind, So that's the reason why it got pulled. As far as YaLLa goes, that was a bit different. They skipped over a couple of teams, I think something like up to 5 or something like that. And that was more because they felt it was in their right to use filtered versions of the VRS. At least they claimed as much, So I think the bottom 3 teams that they invited was Yano, Apogee, and BC Game, which were far below several teams, above them that were supposed to get invited ahead, but they weren't. It's not really clear why they were invited, based on what filtering, if it was the best Finnish team or if it was, I don't know, the best team with a legend that used to be coaching that's not coaching anymore, in Guardian. I don't know what the reason was exactly, but they were kind of explaining it with a rule that made no sense because they defined that entire part of the tournament as an open qualifier, even though it was entirely invite only. And in open qualifiers, you can choose specific criteria. You can host open qualifiers for only female teams. You can host open qualifiers for let's say only certain regions, right? And if you want to do like South Europe, Central Europe, things like that, generally you can do that with certain limitations, but not for tier 1 events, and that's a problem because those were qualifiers for tier 1 events, you know. So again, they skipped over a couple of teams that they were not supposed to, that based on the ranking were supposed to get an invite. I think Navi Junior, Spirit Academy were the two biggest ones, a couple of them further, and there were some other issues with the way that they structured their tournaments that was very clearly against the idea of a lot of those rules that were in place. So that was also something that we pointed out to Valve after we saw that, you know, a lot of teams got in touch, that they never got an invite, you know, that they felt like they were supposed to, or they were supposed to get an invite further into the tournament. You know, that was the case. It seemed with Metasport especially, who actually kind of announced that they would pull out from the tournament even after they got invited to the first stage, you know. So it seemed like they felt like they were supposed to get invited further, and that the organizers weren't really transparent about it, about how they chose these invites, you know, and how it worked exactly. So there was a lot of issues there, but it seems like at the moment, at least we know that YaLLa has adjusted the circuit to comply, as far as I can tell. They have changed a lot of the invite rules. They will now no longer use, you know, specific filtering of the VRs. They will just go by, you know, VRS from X to Y to invite the teams to each of their tournaments. They separated the circuit a little bit, just redefined it so that it actually complies with very specific parts of the rules. You know, I'm not going to bother people with the specific details because it doesn't really matter. It's just they kind of redefined the entire framing of their circuit. It remains very much the same, but the way that they will decide invites, the way that they kind of allow teams from the contenders to qualify for their Dubai event actually works now as part of the rules. When before, I think they had too many teams qualifying from those events, you know, because that's just not what you can do in that according to the rules, you know. So that'll be the basics, really.
Okay, so the YaLLa one sounds less problematic, right? Just something that they need to address and fix. The CCT ones, that's where this 5.4 in the rulebook comes in, right? The invitee exceptions. So people can go and find that if they want, but I'll read it out just so, you know, our audio-only listeners and whatnot, maybe people in a car that don't have time to go and take a look. Licensee may have rules that disqualify certain individuals from participating in their events due to misconduct, cheating, infractions, being flagged by esports bodies as a match-fixing risk or other integrity or compliance issues. If the licensee wishes to disqualify any rosters, they must publish the disqualification rules as part of additional information, see 4.3. Publish the details of any disqualification decision at the time it occurs. Right. So this is where if CCT are skipping over teams, if they wanted to make it public as to why they were doing this, right, provide the evidence that they have, because I think most of us, we don't have to beat around the bush like a 70s porn with this shit. We can speak quite plainly on it. The scenario here is that I don't know. I don't want to. This is what I think it is. I think that they think that certain teams are. What is the German? Not the German. The Russian. Is it 3-2-2? Right. They're match fixing. They're right.
That term.
So this is where right they're under the impression that certain teams are match fixing or match fixing risk, and that's why that they are not being permitted or barred or banned from being able to play. Now, I think if they have evidence pointing to that it would be in everybody's best interest for them to publish it, wouldn't it?
Of course. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to, right? Do they have enough for it to actually hold up? Because we have obviously seen ESIC attempt something similar, and that's actually a regulatory body that has lawyers in it, and so they should technically know better, you know, what's going to hold up under some scrutiny and what's not going to hold up. Obviously, in a lot of ways, it hasn't. Whenever somebody's lawyers up, they kind of go back on a lot of the bans that they've given out, right? So that's kind of the issue, right? And you kind of insinuated it earlier, right? Some of these bodies just have an issue with, you know, not being able to hold up to that scrutiny. So if they publicize something that they can't hold up, obviously then that team can just say, okay, when we've been unfairly kept out of this competition, you know, we've been like opportunities have been taken away from us based on shoddy evidence, right? So that's effectively the reason why these tournaments will not share these bans publicly, because they don't want that scrutiny to come, right? And that is effectively, I mean, we had a couple of sources from the that knew about how CCT operates, that they had this kind of integrity list that where they put teams that had, let's say, betting companies that told them that they had some suspicious patterns of betting on their matches, and so that's how they land on that list, right? And that could be for a lot of different reasons. You don't know if that was actual match fixing or if it was just, I don't know, like a kind of a coincidence that somebody just bet a lot of money on one match or something like that. You never know when that actually comes from. Of course, it's a good indicator that there might be some foul play, but it's not evidence of it, right? Unless you can tie it to the people that are involved or in some way to a result being fixed. So the evidence part of it is the crux of the issue, really. If you don't have enough, you can't shadow ban teams without sufficient evidence.
Okay, let me handball this one over to you then, Prof, because with this, right, maybe you have to play devil's advocate here. I don't know what your opinion is on this overall, but match fixing is a problem, especially with online Counter-Strike. It's something that, look, I don't think it would surprise human nature. Here we go. Let's get philosophical for a reason, for a moment. If there's any way that people are able to get ahead or make things easier for themselves or cheat the system, human nature would tell you that's going to happen. Like, you can look at any sporting thing, you can look at anything across, mankind, and someone is always going to try and take a shortcut or do something to get them ahead, right? And this kind of fits into that same category and conversation. So with this in mind, that CCT is trying to protect itself and protect people who are, legitimately betting on matches. Where do you fall, or how do you feel, or maybe you have to play devil's advocate? But what's your take on this situation?
I mean, kind of what you said there. There's stuff that is, I'm not going to say 100%, but it's probably happening, right? And it's not in the general interest of the community for match fixing to happen. I would say this is something that few benefit from, and most get the bad part of. So then we kind of have to look, why is it important? Obviously, there is money coming in from betting companies to sponsor these tournaments. And then if there is match fixing within these tournaments, the companies are losing money effectively.
Well, they are. They have to pay it out, right?
They have to pay out, yeah, and they're
it's
also
not in a betting company's interest if someone is match fixing. They're actually there to protect that, right? Like that.
And
they don't
not
want
even
that.
Not even that. Like even just supporting the tournament supports them having more matches that can be bet on. And essentially, like, generally, the betting company doesn't really win on winning or losing. It's just like they create the odds, and it's like the percentages. If it's kind of, the odds are pretty much in the middle. Some people will lose, some people will win, and they'll just milk the middle. That's at least my understanding of it, right? So what they just need is more people, more matches, more people betting, right? And then if you have stuff that is a match fixing risk, then these matches have to be taken down, right? And then let's say there's a 16-team tournaments and 3 teams are match fixing risks, and they go, all of them go into the playoffs. That effectively kills 30-40% of the matches if you want to take off these matches where the match fixing risk is in. So this is why essentially CCT doesn't want to invite these teams, because the teams are enough of a risk that the bookkeepers don't want to even offer odds for their games. Therefore, it just lowers the amount of games that can be put forward. So I think that's kind of the circle that exists, is it's not that we can't have tournaments with these teams. It's just the support of the main support system comes from betting companies, and then they don't really have a reason to support them if half of the games are going to be not being able to be bet on.
Legitimate.
Yeah.
So I think
so
that's
kind of the problem that we're in. So then how do we fix that? Obviously, I mean, Strikers already spoke about the whole problem of making it public and not making it public. I do think how it used to function in some ways was beneficial for the scene, but also it definitely, I'm pretty sure it caught some people that were not guilty of it and punish them by not allowing them to play in tournaments. And we saw situations where a team was blacklisted, and then all the players went to different teams. This happened with Johnny Speeds, Like all the players went to different teams and they were allowed to play, but that team was not allowed to play. So how does that work? Like who was then who was blacklisted from that team? That doesn't even make any sense, right? And that's why you need the transparency, because otherwise it becomes like completely up to some guy that doesn't even have a face or a name or anything to decide who gets to play and like or not play. That's effectively like ruining people's potential careers. And that's why they can get sued, essentially. That's why this exists.
I mean, there could also be the opposite way, right? Where a player can get attached to a certain team that has this risk attached to it, or blacklisted or something, and then they get themselves blacklisted as a result of being connected to that team, even if for a few matches,
And they also might not even know this, right? Because this list is not public. So let's say, Striker, you join a team with me and Chad, and we've been like match fixing. We're kind of on the verge of getting blacklisted, or maybe are in some tournaments or not on the others. And we invite you, you join us, you play a few games with us, you get blacklisted, you have no idea what was going on, right? So it's not really, unless that is out there, you can't really blame players for joining these teams because you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, yes, people know more, people talk, but there's also, you know, a probability that people are completely unaware.
Here's what I would say. If CCT, in this example, feel that they have fair evidence or data pointing towards the fact that teams could be embroiled in match fixing controversy, that they should try contacting Valve directly with that information, because the concern here that you guys discussed is them putting that information out and then them being sued, right? Or is that that you know is obviously a fear that they have. So if they feel that there is sufficient evidence, but they don't feel that they can go public with sufficient evidence because there's no body to uphold that, then go to Valve, show that evidence to Valve, and then see what Valve have to say about it, right? I understand that's not what the rules said.
Yeah, but they'll not take the position of being a regulatory body, right? Like even if you send it, then it's the same as sending it to ESIC, right? I mean, you're effectively passing on that responsibility to somebody else, and Valve are never gonna put themselves in a position where they have to decide whether to ban this team based on evidence or not ban this team based on evidence. You know, unless it is something that is very clearly put forward, like they've done it in the past with ESIC, you know, about the coaching bans and all that stuff. You know, but that was a relatively one-time thing, you know, or with the iBuy power bans, you know, unless it was absolutely irrefutable and somebody already decided that was the case, they would not make that decision. They would not take it up on themselves to take that decision, you know. So it does come down to ESIC, and we know that CCT has passed on a lot of this information to ESIC. I don't know how it went after that. It's possible that ESIC also deemed, okay, there's not enough here for us to take action, right? Or we know that this won't hold up to scrutiny. We don't know what happened with that. It's also possible, knowing ESIC, that it's just taken forever for them to even go through this evidence, right? So it's obviously it's a very complex issue, but ultimately where I sit is exactly because you're going to get a lot of false positive with this process, because, you know, if you're just going to ban everybody who's in some way connected to a team that was put on this blacklist, it's going to cause issues, right? You're just going to gatekeep players out of the circuit without them having done anything wrong, right? So it's always going to be like, you always have to be pretty ironclad in the evidence that you have to be able to make these decisions. So in some way, obviously, it's going to cause some of these bad actors to come back into the circuit, unless we get more evidence. You know, they get into more of these situations. There's going to be more against them and all that stuff. There's going to be more evidence to use against them, and it's always been difficult to ban these players. But if you're also banning innocent people at the same time, maybe it's not a great system, you know?
That. Yeah. I think that like this is because in our community, there's certain things that are seen and deemed as just bad, right? Like, and I think betting falls into that. I think gambling is bad. Like sports betting is something that in Australia is a pretty big cultural thing. I'm also the type of guy that thinks that everybody should be able to make their own decisions, as long as we're not marketing gambling direct or betting directly to children. All these websites are regulated where you have to put your passport or your driver's license to actually make sure that, hey, you know, you are an adult. Adults should be able to make their own decisions, in my mind, right? And we're all going to learn at our own pace and understand these behaviors are addictive things. But sports betting, right, on Counter-Strike matches equals viewers. And that can bring in viewers who aren't just Counter-Strike viewers. Our fans are hardcore fans. Our fans who watch this show, who are consuming Counter-Strike like this, are the type of people who don't really probably care about the sports betting side, probably more just care about the storylines of Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike itself, and probably are people who played before or still play now, et cetera, right? So if you're somebody like CCT, you would want there to be sports betting on your matches because it's going to bring more interest and views, and that more interest and views is going to equal more metrics, and that metric is going to mean that you can potentially get more sponsors for your tournaments, right? Like that's kind of the cycle that you would be looking at. And there's another thing as well. Like I'm reading some interesting comments within the chat now. I'm not huge on understanding how all of this works. I feel like I have a pretty rudimentary understanding. When a match of any variety, of any sport goes up, the betting website sets a line, right? They set a line of the odds. But how the people at home bet is what sways those odds. Those odds get changed by the market, by the people, like the people who are literally using their money to give the opinion. That's why, like, if there is an odd that is like with this match fixing stuff, if a team is like a heavy favorite to win and then they throw the match and lose and someone's bet a shitload on the underdog and the underdog wins, that's what we're talking about, like is certain match fixing scenarios, right? Or when you have like an exotic, right? Is just something that happens within the game, like a certain amount of rounds or the under over lines. If you are a legitimate sports betting website, it is in your best interest for the matches to have integrity and be fair and have proper results because you're setting the line on who you truly think is going to win, right? Like you don't want there to be big variance in that, right? You don't want that to be the case. You want there to be legitimate matches across everything. So like when people are getting up in arms, it's like, oh, you know, these sports betting companies, I'm not saying all of them. I'm sure there's some out there that are dodgy. I don't know. That's not my wheelhouse. But to say that these sports betting companies, you know, want the matches to get thrown and shit, it's like, what are we fucking talking about? Like,
I don't know. I don't know the logic behind that, man. Like they literally lose crazy money on these things, you know. So
yeah. Anyway, I don't understand the ins and the outs correctly. Maybe one episode we could get someone who's like a sports betting expert on the show to talk about some of those things. That could actually be interesting because it's part of the space. It's part of every sport. I don't think it's going anywhere. So, you know, maybe that's something that we could investigate and educate ourselves a little bit more on in the future.
I mean, ultimately, there is no like clear solution for this that like is just gonna, you know, oftentimes in Counter-Strike, we're like, this is obvious thing to do. Why aren't we doing this? I don't think that's really the case here. I do think it is better to like allow people to play than to like ban people with no evidence, disclosure, or transparency. But I still don't think that's what we're going to get is a great solution either. And it will just need like all of these involved, I would say, actors to come together and work on a solution. Because I don't think just being like, well, unless we have 100% foolproof evidence that we can put out somewhere and that we don't need to do anything. I don't think really that's that is great either. So I don't know what Valve can do and what ESA can do together with CCT, but I do think they should be able to put out like, hello, these teams had very suspicious betting patterns on this and this and this, and for this reason, we suspect there might be further, you know, stuff happening. We don't want to have this team associated with our tournament. I don't think that's a crazy statement to put on, but then there should also be like a timeline. There should be something on this process. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but then you're going to have those teams defending themselves, right? I mean, unless you have something that actually corroborates it, it's going to be a problem, right? Exactly. Yeah. Like there needs to be something more concrete than that. I mean, like the last thing I would say about it is that it's already shifting. We see that. I mean, in YaLLa's case, it didn't even have to do with them specifically banning teams, as far as we can tell, like shadow banning teams the same way that TCT did. But even with CCT, we have already heard from a lot of the teams that did get skipped over in the first process for season 16 for Europe that got invites to the 17th. So it seems that they are literally going the way of, okay, we're not going to publicize anything. We're just going to allow all these teams to play, at least as far as we can tell. We don't know that anybody has gotten skipped over at the moment. We will see when they announce the next season's teams, you know, because then we can, again, cross-check between which teams they invited or which teams said yes and which teams have been skipped over or possibly declined, right? So that's when we'll get a few more answers. But at the moment, from talks behind the scenes, it already seems like it's shifting to that direction.
All right. Well, we've done a lot of talk about betting right now. And if you are one of those people who has an issue with it, there's plenty of helplines and stuff that you can reach out to, because this is one of those things, one of those unfortunate things in life. You know, people can get addicted to gambling, they get addicted to alcohol, they get addicted to drugs. So if people are having issues with things, there's places you can go. So yeah, remember to gamble responsibly, everybody. All right. Let's move into our next little talking point. This is still very VRS focused. Valve released something regarding the regional rules. Obviously, your wildcards of the world and your liquids of the world fall into these categories. Now, the reason I can just quickly go over that for people playing at home is because of the way that Counter-Strike works. It's always been core-based. This is a conversation I remember having with Valve at one of the first majors back in 2014, and they were asking, like, how have we done things in the past? And I explained to them events like WCG, that's the World Cyber Games for everybody playing at home, used to be all 5 of the same nationality. But we also had another tournament, ESWC, which was 3 out of the 5. You just need to have 3 out of the 5 of the same nationality to be able to compete. So I kind of used that as a reference point in my conversation with them. I'm sure they had conversations with plenty of other players. And obviously then that has become a little bit more boundary-based, not just nationality-based, right? We've been broken up into 3 key regions. That's going to be your Europes of the world, that's going to be your Americas, and that's going to be your Asia. So they've broken it up into 3 key categories there. 1984 would be proud. So taking a look at these regions, if you were to put Liquid now, with the roster they have, Nerds and JKS represent the Asian region, NAF and Twistzz represent the Americas region, and Ultimate for Europe. So you've got 2 and 2 split. So they would be either in the running for an Asian spot or an Americas spot. Wildcard has FOZY and SUSP. They'd represent Europe. And then you would have the likes of Stan and Jaber, who would represent the Americas. So Wildcard would get either of those 2. Now, I've actually done up a spreadsheet to help with this conversation this evening. So do we want to get into the particulars? Let's get... No, well, you're going to have to... I'm talking to myself right now. We're going to have to explain the particulars anyway. So I'm going to do my best right now with my spreadsheet. And then when I get things wrong, Striker can fix it. Does that sound good for everybody?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. I like this. Okay, I'm going to share this page. 1 second. Lucas, are you okay with me sharing this? Is that fine, sir? Oh, I just turned my webcam off. Sorry, everybody.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Sorry, everybody. Share. Okay, can you see this, everybody?
Let's see. It's loading. Oof, it's hard to read. I have to. Oh, it's actually good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. It's good.
Is that better?
Yeah. Don't move too fast. Just don't move too fast, and we're good.
Okay, so right now on this first page, what I've done is I've just shown the distribution for the majors, which are now 32 teams. So here you can see Europe has 16, America has 11, Asia has 5 for a total of 32 teams. Right here, you can see stage 3. So this is the last...
It's not showing up at the moment from Lucas's side. So maybe just the whole worth waiting until it actually shows up. There we go.
There you go.
Yep. On the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Europe 16, America's 11, Asia 5, with a total of 32 teams for the new majors. Stage 3, which is the third and final Swiss stage, so that is the closest to the playoffs that you could possibly be. That has 6 spots available for Europe, that has 1 spot available for the Americas, and that has 1 spot available for Asia, making it 8 teams. If we then move over, we can see stage 2. Stage 2 has 4 spots available for Europe, 4 spots available for the Americas, and 0 spots available for Asia. So that is the second Swiss stage along in the journey. And then the opening Swiss stage has 6 spots available for Europe, 6 spots available for the Americas, and a total of 4 spots available for Asia, giving us a total of 16 teams. Okay, so that is the first slide. Now I'm going to zoom back out, Lucas, so you can take it off the screen if you want, or I can do it. It might seem a little bit, I don't know, whatever, fuck it. Okay, so all of this is important because the way that the VRS works in terms of determining the teams for the majors has been broken up in you either go to stage 3, you go to stage 2, or you go to the major regional qualifiers. So what I've done right now is, can everybody see this?
Yes.
I feel like a fucking teacher. Yeah, this is what I don't know if it's on the screen. I don't know if you'll monitor this. I don't know if I have.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah?
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I've done right now is I've used the current Valve regional standings to give an initial example. Now, Striker, if I fuck this up, you can tell me where I fucked it up, and then we can go from there. So as we just highlighted in the previous little spreadsheet, it's the distribution. So right now, G2 are the number 1 team by the VRS. So that means they'll be one of the 6 teams from Europe who will be going straight through to stage 3. Spirit are the same. Mongols are the highest rated team from the Asian region right now. So they'll be taking that 1 slot, and they'll be going through and joining those teams at stage 3. FaZe, Vitality, Mouse, and Na'Vi. They're going to round.
This is just an example for like based on the current VRS, not the actual teams that are going to go to the major. Just FYI.
Yes, this is an example, everybody. This is clearly an example.
Sure, I'm just putting things clear.
It says example at the bottom of the screen.
I know. But they don't see that. They don't see that. That's fine. Okay. It's fine. All good. I'm just clarifying, just so as we go along. All good.
So of the 6 spots, as people can see here for Europe, that would be stage 3, that would go all the way down with the current VRS to Na'Vi. So Na'Vi would be the last team to be in the stage 3 from Europe. Then Falcons, who would then be the 7th team by the European VRS, would go to stage 2. Liquid would be the number 1 highest rated Americas team, and they would be the last team of the stage 3. To create that 8. Then Furia, Pain, MIBR are all representing the Americas region. They would be in stage 2 of the Americas region. Gamer Legion, 3D Max, Eternal Fire would all also be in stage 2, but that's from the European region. And then, well, unfortunately, Big, they're past that threshold, right? So we said 4 teams from Europe. Oh, if I fucked it up. No, 1.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so Falcons is correct. Good. Gamer Legion correct. 3D Max correct.
Yes.
Eternal Fire. So there's your 4 teams that would be representing stage 2 for the European region. Then, unfortunately for Big, they would have to go play in the major regional qualifier with a bunch of other teams. Okay,
Can I ask a question?
Small teams, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Can I ask a question? There's someone that in chat that hasn't been following, hasn't been listening, so we need to clarify something for him.
What do I clarify?
Clegor, whereas he said, isn't Liquid European now? Do you wish to explain this to him?
I'll clarify. No worries. It's okay if you turn up to class late. So Liquid has Nerds from Israel and JKS from Australia. Israel and Australia qualify as the Asia region, making 2 out of the 5 from Asia. They have NAF and Twistzz, who are Canadian. They'll be representing the Americas region, which makes another 2 out of the 5 from Americas. And then Ultimate would be European. So he doesn't really count. So the split of majority of the team is 2 for Asia, 2 for Americas. Now, in this example, and the reason that this is important with what Valve have changed, is we can take a look now at the crazy example that I've done over here on this side of the page. Now, if there is a scenario where if Liquid were rated above Mongols, but another Americas team was above Liquid in the rankings, then Liquid, Striker, tell me if I'm right here, could take the Asian stage 3 spot over Mongols. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what was changed within these rules? So I'm pretty sure everything I've done here is correct. Striker, as the lead examiner here, am I right?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the crazy example. I'm just looking at how like wildcard fit into this, but yes, that seems correct. Because effectively, what the new rule says, the way it works, that if you have a split majority, right? If you technically belong to 2 different regions, which is in this case it would be Liquid and wildcard. That's pretty much the only 2 teams that I think show up as a split region team.
Yes.
Whichever region gets you further into the major is the one that applies in the first place. So let's say if you're an Americas and European team as a wildcard is, they will be invited as a whatever it is you said now, as they're number 5 in Americas, right? At the moment. So if they were number 5 in Americas at the moment, they would get into the
which is here on the first
second
example.
stage. Second stage is the last team from Americas because they have four spots in Americas, but they would not get into the stage 2 based on Europe because that's only the top 10 teams. They're already beyond that. As Chad was showing, if they were those 3 spots ahead, it would actually come down to a tie, and they would have taken the European region. But that's where we come next, right? So first of all, it is whichever ranking takes you further into the major, and if it's the same stage. So if, for example, like the worst case scenario would be for wildcard, they are neither a top 5 Americas team or a top 10 European team. So they're just below that threshold. They're number 6 in Americas, number 11 in Europe, for example. They would have to play the European MRQ because once it comes down to a tie, it is about which of the two regions that you're representing has more spots at the major. So you have to play the MRQ from Europe if you wildcard, and you don't apply for stage 2 or 3 invites based on either of your regions.
Okay, so Prof, from your standpoint, and you probably already understand all of this, but you're going to pretend that you're the viewer right now. Is that clear to you, or do we need to get Striker to do a test live on air?
I mean, I think I'm consulting here with the chat. Me and chat homies. Also have to say I can't write in chat because Twitch doesn't want to send me the SMS to verify me to log in. So that kind of sucks. So I'm reading, but I'm not interacting as much as I'd like to. I have to say it's kind of clear, but I also feel like, some hands-on learning would help everyone to... I'm really into this. I know it's kind of complicated, not really most exciting, but I feel like we're trying something new here with the spreadsheet. I feel like you're delivering some good content, and I think people are into it. So let's go into the Striker test and see if we have if we understood this. People in chat can also try to guess how things are going to go, and then they're going to get the right answer from the teacher's pet in first row. Knowing all the answers.
All right, we'll jump to. I just want to point this out on the spreadsheet just quickly for the point that Striker was just making, because I didn't get that far, but this is exactly what Striker was just talking about here on the left-hand side. Eternal Fire is the cutoff for the European teams to be able to get a spot either in stage 3 or stage 2, right? So wildcard fall outside of that limit of teams. So then, because it will put them further in the tournament, right, there's still spots available for them to be in stage 2 of the Americas, right? You've only got your likes of Furia, Pain, and MIBR. They are the last team, because remember that first spreadsheet where I looked at everybody, America's had 4 spots within the second stage. So they'd be the last team to make that up. All right?
Yep.
There we go. So there's
a question from Gomez in
yes.
chat. He says,
hello, Christopher.
Are you sure wildcard is dual region, I guess? 2 Sweden plus 2 America plus Sonic. Isn't Sonic regionless now?
Asia.
So anything African is Asia.
Is this okay? So he has it wrong. You're telling me your previous manager.
I know who we're talking about.
I mean, we had South Africa as a MENA region, right? In the qualifiers for the last Asia RMR. So all these countries apply as kind of MENA type. As a MENA country.
Okay, so we're going to jump over to the Striker test. Now, we won't do the one on the left because that is from 1 to 32. That is the current HLTV rankings, and I feel that is going to be less fun than the test here on the right-hand side, which I've come up with, which is just 10 teams. So right now, Striker will talk you through the logic behind this order of teams that I have right now, and we'll get through it. So Striker, you do the talk and I'll do the typing.
I'm just trying to understand what you want from me in this just for a moment. What's the task here?
On the right, this one right here, I've just zoomed in on it.
Yes.
So just
assign stages and
the stage,
region,
and
whatever.
we'll also put the region, right? Because that's important for certain teams.
Yeah.
Yep,
right. So
here we go.
So Spirit, G2, Navi, Vitality would be stage 3 as Europe. Because 6 European teams go straight into stage 3. So the top 6. Then it would be the same for... Right, okay. So Americas... let's go Americas for Furia. I'll just assign regions first, so I can have it a little bit. So Americas for Furia, at least Asia for Mongols. We will see about the Liquid because they're the contentious one, right? European for Maus, European for FaZe, and then again contentious. So let's leave that for now. So at the moment, Liquid would be number 2 in Americas, but they would be number 1 in Asia, which means they would go to stage 3.
And they would be classified
and they would represent
as
as an Asian. They would represent Asia in the major, yes. So Mongols would go into Mongols would go into MRQ because from second place to whatever it is, 9th, I think you go to MRQ from Asia. Maus again, stage 3.
That's crazy.
Maus and FaZe to stage 3, and the wildcard would be number 2 in Americas, right? At this point, no wait, there would be in Europe actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so they would go. If they were European, they would go into stage 2, right? And then if they were American, they would also go into stage 2. So they would be going to stage 2 as a European team, right?
Yes. You've passed the test, Striker. Does everybody understand? Isn't this great? This is like active learning.
It is.
Clegger
It is
is really
crazy.
not listening. Clegor is really not listening. He's saying right now Mongols is first in Asia. Yes, this is true, but this is not the current ranking. This is a test ranking. This is an exam. This is the I don't know, a nightmare scenario that Chad came up with to test the skills of the spreadsheet man himself. But who else to conquer the spreadsheet than the spreadsheet man? Spreadsheet man, spreadsheet man, spreadsheet man, spreadsheet man. How's it say?
So the reason I did this specific one here is because it shows how these teams, Liquid and Wildcard, can flip between regions based off of where they place in the rankings and where other teams from shared regions, as they're split, can affect their placing. That was the whole point of this.
This is not out of the world of possibilities, by the way. I mean, Furia could overtake Liquid and Mongols, let's say they just don't do well until March or April or whatever the majors cutoff is. This could very realistically happen. Mongols drop out of the top 10. Furia and Liquid are close enough together where Furia can go over, so this is a realistic scenario for sure.
So, again, many people didn't really pay attention to the key thing. You cannot choose your region. Yeah. This is completely out of the team's possibility, their power. The way the region is decided is based on other teams and slots available. And that's how your region is decided if you're multi-region, if you have the 2-1 split. Yeah. That is the way you can choose your region is by having 3 players from region, and then it's clear. But other than that, it's not in your power.
Yeah, they're effective. I mean, Valve. That's the reason Valve did this. I even just shot them a message just to make sure that I understand everything. And effectively, what they said, the reason is to take away the choice from the teams and just create a rule set that actually forces them to represent a certain region based on these rules, right? So, that's effectively the reaon why they did it in the first place. Because before, let's say you had the choices as Liquids to choose between Asia and Americas, you could technically just say, okay, we're going to go through the Asian, we're just going to take the Asian spot then if they're going to overtake Mongols, right? So,
but there's good news here, everybody. The good news is, let's say that this scenario on the screen right now manifests and Liquid represent Asia, and Mongols have to play through the MRQ, which they're 100% as long as it's not online and people are match fixing like we discussed before. That's a joke. And they qualify, and then they have a good run at the major again. That means with Liquid having the representation of Asia, they could, the two of them, with their motherfucking powers combined, they could get even more spots for Asia. So there is a positive side with all of this.
I am curious. You know what I'm curious about? There's like a little bit of a kind of gray area that maybe we need to get clarified. Let's say Liquid does, like this happens with Liquid, right? And Liquid then represent Asia as the next region. Previously, the way it worked at the majors, and I think the rules still say something along the same lines, is you would effectively go into the next major with those teams essentially defending those spots, right? So let's say Liquid changes region in the meantime. They lose the Asia splits. Let's say they get a third American player, instead of Ultimate.
Yeah.
And they're going to lose instead of one of the Asian players, right? And they're going to transition fully to Americas because they're going to have a core in Americas. Would their spot that they earned for Asia in the previous major be retained, or would it go to Americas? Yeah. Because I feel historically it would have gone to Americas if a team changes region
I see what
and stays with the same core that earned that spot in the first place in the previous one.
Yeah, and that's possible, right? Like the idea of replacing JKS and bringing in another European.
Or European, yeah. I mean, also, they could take them between Americas and Europe.
Completely.
Yeah, I mean, they would take them between Americas and Europe, and they could.
That's hilarious.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's how it then works, because it seems, I would say you get yourself into too difficult a spot, because then if they go into a different split, as you say, let's say Liquid transition into an Americas/European team, how do you then decide like how many spots which region has? How do you do that in the first place so that you decide where they go in the future? So I think I would assume that ceases to be the case, and whichever region earns that spot, that's just where it stays moving forward. It's possible that it has actually been addressed in the rules, and I just don't remember that specific part. I'm just kind of spitballing here.
That's all right. I'm going to stop sharing this, by the way, Lucas. So just be prepared for that.
That's fine.
Stop sharing my screen right now. So hopefully that gave a nice little explainer to people of how this works, because I know, just for me, for example, if I'm just reading the plain text that's on HLTV, it explains it, but I kind of need the visual. So I spent some time this afternoon doing that up, because I think it's really, I'm one of those, I need to be more of a hands-on learner. So that helped me, and hopefully it helps some of you in chat.
I think it helps everyone. Like, I think whenever we see these like formats and stuff like this without any examples, it doesn't really do justice to what can happen and what are the possibilities. So
I think
this
it's
is
also
really nice.
Yeah, I think it's also really important, because I saw a lot of kind of misunderstandings about this, even though I tried to, with the examples I had in the article, I tried to explain to people exactly how it would work. Effectively, a lot of people thought that just, okay, wildcard and liquid just belong to the stronger region by default. And that's just not how it works. It's only in case of the tie where, you know, they would go to the same stage based on both rankings. That's where the stronger region comes into play. Before that, it is literally what gets you further. So you can, within, you know, depending on how the ranking works out, be either or.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, I think we've done enough on this topic. Let's jump into the Skyesports stuff, and then we'll jump into an ad break once we just round this off. So we just need a couple minutes for this. This doesn't need too long. This one has provoked a question from me, though. If people missed it, this is the Indian tournament organizer, Skinionaire. They obviously had a lot of trouble putting events on last year. They've audaciously set themselves up to try and run a couple this year. Now, I'm not going to read the exact quotes from the article. You guys can go and find it. But the reasons that Skyesports gave of why they've cancelled their event, pretty humorous to me, to be honest with you. But the long and the short of it, the thing that I take away from it is they weren't willing or couldn't comply with what Valve have requested from the rules and regulations of the VRS. And because of that, they spat their dummy and won't be hosting the event anymore. Is that your guys' take on this, or is that just me maybe being a little bit too harsh on the situation?
I'm sorry, I was just spacing out for a moment.
I don't really, I don't know. What has really changed that would justify this? I don't really understand.
Well, they were like, oh, we reached out to Valve, but they didn't get back to us because we were hoping to get some exemptions or whatever. Right? Like, I'll read them out. Fuck it. Let's read them out, because maybe. Yeah. So here it is. The full statement is as follows. We had applied for an exception to reschedule the Skinionaire Souvenir 2025 and introduce wildcard invites. However, despite our efforts, we have not received a response from Valve. So you're doing that already in the year when you're already too late, and Valve already put out exceptions a little bit earlier. I'm injecting opinion. Sorry, guys. This isn't the news. Coupled with the current situation surrounding other events and concerns raised by teams about the tournament potentially becoming unranked, we are left with no choice but to cancel the Skinionaire Souvenir 2025. We sincerely apologize to our fans, players, and partners for this disappointing turn of events. First of all, you already have a fucking history of canceling events.
Yeah.
You're not putting yourself out there in a position where you're blaming it on Valve because you can't follow the fucking rules. And this is where I'm going to get mad again. I had this about StarLadder earlier in the year, Striker, and you said, yeah, they took it out of the calendar. It's apparently cancelled. It's still in the HLTV calendar, or at least it was last time I checked. If TOs are scheduling events in advance, this is the first year, so I'll be nice this year. Next year, I'm going to be going out of my fucking mind. If you're scheduling events in advance and then you're canceling them within a couple of months of that event being announced, you're a fucking dog. That's what I call people on FaceIt, and that's what I'm going to call the TOs that do this. Because the entire point is meant to understand the calendar better, not only from a viewer perspective, but a player perspective and everybody else, right? So we can make plans on what tournaments are coming, where they're going to be. And then if you're canceling the fucking event because you can't read the rules properly and you're saying, oh, we reached out for an exception, but they didn't get back to us. So the rules are relatively clear. And if you can't fucking read the rules, message fucking Striker or Messioso or someone, because they're going to give you a hand. They're going to point you in the right direction. Don't just sit there and say, oh, they wouldn't let us make it a wildcard event. Like, fuck off, man. You announced the tournament. You couldn't play by the rules. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I mean, why would it be a wild card? That's like, you know, I don't know. Obviously, some, you know, Blast ESL got some exceptions, but they got exceptions on like 5 to 10% of their whole calendar that they're doing like so many events over the year, and they had no issue with most of the stuff. And then there's a few things like had some leftover invites and stuff like this, maybe some misunderstandings, maybe like, oh fuck, we thought we could do it this way, but we can't. But can you give us an exception? But this is like, of course they can run this event. Why wouldn't they be able to run this event? You can invite 50%, you can put on qualifiers, close qualifiers. People play it, and you get the teams. Like, I don't really see how that is relevant. The relevant part is that people are raise concerns about it potentially being unranked. That is based on like everything that happened with their previous tournaments. Of course, you're going to be like, hey, I don't know, Fnatic. What if we spend like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if we're playing like qualifiers and stuff like this on this event? That is not going to give us any points because these guys are going to make some mistake, or even worse, just cancel it regardless of having teams or not, because this happened in the past as well, right? Like previously, they just canceled events and there was no Valve rules coming in, right? So obviously, to me, this sounds like teams, all the big teams were like, we probably are not going to play this event. And then they were like, let's not hold this event. And
but there needs to be sanctions or punishments for this.
It is pretty silly. They do still have, as you said, like I was looking at the calendar.
Look, there will be sanctions in the way that nobody was going to trust them moving forward, right? Like, I don't know how many events they've canceled already, and they have another 3 tier 1s. I don't remember how many exactly. There's like Skyesports Masters later.
Space.
Of course, but then if you're other organizers, you see that there's not going to be like these TOs. Like, let's say it's going to be scheduled over a Blast or ESL. You know that these TOs were not like this. TOs like this, especially with kind of behaviors like this, they're not going to get the teams that they want, right? They were just going to have to go so far down the ranking that it's like that's how they get sanctioned. Like, the teams will effectively vote with where they go, and they will see further on with their tournaments after behaving like this. You know, nobody's going to trust them that they will host it, so nobody's going to want to commit their part of the calendar to play at this tournament, right? So it's only going to be the teams that have nothing else to play, and so this is effectively going to stop being a tier 1 event. It's still going to be one by definition or whatever, but it's not going to be a tier 1 event in how we understand it, you know, because none of the good teams are going to be there.
So I'm going to translate this for everybody. So if everybody at home is familiar with the Virgin versus Chad meme, what Striker is essentially saying is tournament organizers like PGL, Blast, and ESL are the Chads, and tournament organizers like Skyesports are the Virgins. So that is essentially.
This has nothing to do with this has absolutely nothing to do with your name.
No, nothing. It's just it is a well-known meme that people should be aware of.
Right.
This thing, right? And I get what you're saying, Striker, but like imagine this is why I'm saying there needs to be harsher or some form of punishment, because sure, it's punishment within itself in the sense of other TOs can schedule over it and maybe teams won't go. But imagine that I announce that a tournament's going to be happening on a certain date, and then 2 months before is when I send out the invites based off the VRS. And I get turned down by so many of the teams that I thought were coming. I just throw my toys out of the pram and cancel the tournament. And people might go, oh, yeah, but then you lose the cost of the venue, this, that, or the other. Well, if it's being held in a smaller area or the tournament's a studio and you own the studio, it's not going to hit you the same way. So I think like there's certain ways that TOs might look to exploit this that are really quite bad. And I think that there needs to be, if this becomes a common theme, like 3 strikes and you're out of there type situation, I think there needs to be something that Valve looks at, because it could be abused, it could be egregious.
I mean, you could see that already when they were not complying with certain, even some of the additional information, right, location and all that stuff. They were looking into possible penalties, right, for non-compliance over time. So this is effectively non-compliance if you don't host what you promised to host. You know, that's argument enough for me, you know, for Valve to lose some trust in what you're hosting, right? So eventually it will lead to something like that if it's egregious enough like this, you know. And I agree, it is a problem, of course. I mean, especially if it's coming from a new TO or one that's, you know, has a decent track record, but, you know, every now and again they will make some of these decisions just because they just didn't get any of the top 20 teams. It's not going to make sense from a business perspective. They don't want to host it anymore. And by the way, I'm 100% certain that this is what happened in this case. They just didn't get the big teams. Nobody wanted to go to that tournament because it's also because of their history, I'm sure. And that's why they wanted to have some wildcard invites to a tournament that shouldn't apply for wildcards because it's 8 team and all that stuff, you know. So it's like this. In some ways, I think it will take care of itself, though, in how teams decide how to treat these tournament organizers.
Well, and just
No,
you
go.
What are you gonna say?
I wanted to say that they have 3 more events this year, including one that is scheduled at the same time as the Starlight event that we spoke about. That is probably not going to happen. So the event is between IEM Dallas and Austin Major. Likelihood. What are the odds? What are the odds, guys?
It's basically impossible that anybody who will qualify for the major, at least, from the bottom side of the teams, that are going to go to the first stage, who are actually going to start from the beginning of the major, would ever consider playing at this. So like anything below top 10, between top 10 and 30, whichever those teams are, would not go to this, and none of the top teams would go to this. So you basically have to go from top 30 and bottom. Whoever doesn't qualify for the major and all that stuff, that's the only teams you can get here.
We are talking about Skyesports Masters, May 26th to June 1st, $500,000 prize pool.
What? Cancelled now.
And you, Striker,
no, not
just
that
said...
one.
No. I'm talking about that one was 250.
My bad.
This is the next one is $500,000. And Striker just said no top 30 teams will attend. So likelihood of this being held, I'm giving it a strong 6.9.
X plus X.
The thing with this is that if they do cancel that based off of that, that should fuck a third strike, like get them out, because teams will go. They just won't be the teams they want. And those teams that will go can start accumulating VRS ranking for the next season. So they'll be cutting people off at the legs and removing opportunity if they don't run that event, which that is the problem, because right now we're having issues with CCT. We had issues with YaLLa. If we're having issues with Skyesports, I see the calls from people on social media about, the tier 2 scene in trouble. The thing is, the problem is not Valve. The problem is that these things were clearly put in place. And if these tournaments are not going to follow the rules, then Valve are well within their rights to remove them from rank status. That is the perfect punishment. So the problem is not, Valve have ruined the tier 2 scene. No, the companies who are responsible for running tournaments within the tier 2 scene are trying to bend the rules in their favor or intentionally not follow what's been put down in place. And Valve are the regulatory, well, no, they're not the regulatory body. They are the daddy. What they say, we have to follow,
that's
right?
their official status.
They're not going to come in with the belt and hit you, but they're fucking disappointed, and you won't be getting any toys for Christmas. So, look, this will fix itself because these tournaments need to have that status. And if CCT doesn't do it, if YaLLa doesn't do it, YaLLa so I don't want to be hard on them. I'm just using an example. Somebody else will come and fill that void because you will then get the teams. If you overlap with a CCT as an unranked event and you run a ranked event, you will then be able to get the teams to come play your event because it's more important. It has more prestige and it gets you towards the major. And that's the fucking bottom line. I don't know which wrestler would say that, but I like it. Anyway, shall we go to the break? Is everybody happy?
Yeah, a little break.
I need some water. It's getting hot. Let's go to a break. BRB.
The world is changing quickly. Shut up.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.
And we're back. I just want to say just one last thing. Tier 2 tournaments should actually be Tier 2 tournaments according to the Valve rules. They should just stop trying to be Tier 1 events, announcing a year in advance, $500,000 prize pool, when realistically, they're not going to get the top teams. They don't need to announce a year in it. They can announce 2 months in advance. They can see what the schedule is looking like. When does it make sense to put in a tournament, and then work off of that? Because like Skyesports and IM Cologne are not the same level. They're not the same level. Don't act like they're the same level. It's going to be easier for everyone, and that's it. That's why tier 2 status exists in the rules of our overlord, Daddy Valve. Thank you.
And that's the bottom line. Because why? Because Valve say so. I just watched Stone Cold doing that, so yeah. All right, I have a Calippo because it's hot. I have a bottle of water, and Prof said tier 2 stay in your fucking lane. All right, good. Let's get into Bounty. All right. Impressions is spelt wrong. Now, I don't know if that was me, or if that was Lucas, or if that was Prof.
That's me.
Should be another S.
I swear I fixed this, but maybe I fixed it in one place and not in the other place. That's probably what happened.
It says it right in the news, so I guess that's what happened.
Yes.
No, I fixed it in the news, and then I put in the news. I copied it to the thing. Then I went back to the news and fixed it. So I probably didn't fix it in the little widget thing that I have that Lucas can access. That's a little thing on me right there. I can say that.
That's all right. We can blame Lucas. He doesn't talk anyway. All right, so let's get into Blast Bounty, shall we? So we just want to take some general impressions first, like on the format, on the viewing experience, on a bit of train. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the community's outlandish opinions, the overreacting Andes, I like to call them, to then discuss the hot topics of all.
We're going to
shouldn't
anchor
be
at them.
Oh,
yes.
Shouldn't be like a corresponding to the first letter. So shouldn't it be like an overreacting Ollie?
It could. That's fine too. It's more about alliteration. It doesn't have to
Fair
be,
enough.
necessarily exactly with the letters.
The
I'll give
important
my
part
initial...
is the overreacting one.
Yes, exactly. I want to give some of my initial thoughts. So for me, this is one of the tough things about being in a shitty time zone. So it's great to remind myself how tough it was watching Counter-Strike back when I used to live here. But the initial matches started at 7 or 8 p.m. for me. It was 7. And then I was literally one of the guys in chat when the game started like 5, 10, 15 minutes late. I was like, start the fucking game. Because I was like, you need to start because I got to go to bed soon. So I was one of those guys. So for me, obviously the viewing experience not great. I didn't get to watch all of the matches live. I've been watching back some VODs and stuff. So it's just kind of nice because you can skip through ecos and everything along those lines. My main initial takeaways were of the positive variety. Studio looks beautiful. That massive screen behind them in that studio looks absolutely amazing. Really liked having dupreeh on the desk. It's always nice to get a professional, especially a professional that's a 5-time major winner who's just come off of playing. I know it was Falcons, but still playing to give his insight because that's when you're going to get
barely playing.
Yeah, well, hey, that's when you're always going to get the best insights. Really enjoyed that. In terms of the format, I don't think like the bounty side of things really played in anything crazy, right? There wasn't a lot of bounties that were taken. So for me, the format part that I liked was not to do with like the money distribution or the gamey show element of it all. It was more to do with the fact that it was cutthroat, I want to say best of one, but it's just a single elimination bracket. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's what I kind of liked from that. And then Train being played 4 times by different teams. I think VP was the only team who played it twice. Yeah. So got a nice look at a couple of different names getting to play that map and see how it's developing. Those are my initial impressions. Prof, I'll handball this one over to you. What are your initial takeaways? Anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, kind of similar. I was just like tuning into the bounty status before this to see how it went. It didn't really change much, but honestly, there weren't many like upsets, to be honest, either. And that's where the bounty factor gets activated, right? So most of the things kind of went as suspected. I think the picking aspect could get more interesting now because now teams are more in a similar status, and also it's an interesting thing with all of obviously some of the teams missing players. So how is that going to affect stuff? Is that going to like make any difference for who gets picked for what? But initially it was pretty straightforward. I guess the only little talking point that we got from that was the NPL bait G2 situation right? With them being like beating them in practice 2 times. That was kind of cool because like we even got a question.
Close. It got close as well at the end.
It got close, and before in the pre-show they were asked about this, and Heavy God said, yeah, that we played some practices, they beat us, or it was close, I don't know. So we got something that usually wouldn't come out, right, without this format. But it was a small thing. But overall looks pretty good, but realistically a lot of very like big dog versus little dog games, and I think now that we get into LAN and with most of the bottom kind of being eliminated, we get some more exciting games coming up for the final week.
What about you, Striker? You got anything on top of that, or anything on that you want to add to?
I mean, something I was a bit concerned about was that the fact that it's online was just going to remove this kind of excitement of the picking each other, and I'm kind of curious how that's going to look, because I think that's happening tomorrow for the next stage where they're going to be face to face. It's going to be part of the media day, so I'm guessing it's going to be a bit more exciting, seeing the reactions of the teams that actually got picked, because we didn't really get to see that, right? We could see, teams like, let's say, coming up with a PR response enough that's not going to say these guys just suck, so we picked them, or whatever it is. So you will be able to play around with it much more on LAN. That's why I'm not a big fan of the first part being online, because the entire premise behind this format is the excitement part of it. You give people something more to talk about, and you can see
juice.
Exactly. You can see how the teams react to things, and we didn't really get that in a lot of ways in the online part. So that was a bit. I mean, I expected that to happen, so it's not really been a surprise.
I do feel like the picking will be in the studio. I feel like that's gonna.
That's
That's kind of the vibe I get, which could be pretty cool because of those huge screens and the little screens in front of the PCs and everything. There are some possibilities to do cool stuff.
I mean, we had the whole fucking, what was it? It was not called an IEM, or was it IEM at that time? Where the famous GOB situation.
Oh yeah, I played in that.
There you go. So there was also some picking scenario with that, and that was like they had the teams facing each other kind of face to face, and there was a little bit more. It was a bit more fun. So I'm looking forward to the LAN part of it for that. Online, I had kind of the same impression. Just a lot of games that I wasn't really interested in, other than new teams playing in them, so I just followed them because I was curious about how G2 were going to play with Heavy God, the new Falcons. How are they going to play? That was actually a pretty good game with Ents. I mean, that was probably the most closely contested out of the first round. But otherwise, a lot of games that are kind of good to get out of the way before you get to the big one. But then we also see that a lot of the big teams are getting upset online in their first matches in the new season, and that's always going to happen when you put them in a scenario like this.
Yeah. You reminded me of that Gamescom tournament. I think the public picked the maps, like they voted with Twitch or something, but I forget the mechanism for picking the matches. But I think like the team who won got to pick like who played against who next or something like that. Because I know like we formed an alliance pretty early on, because I'm a big Survivor fan, or at least I used to be. And we formed an alliance early on with like, so I think it was with Envious, because I think we had played at Gfinity with them, so we were kind of friendly with them. So we had maybe formed an alliance with them early, and that's how CLG just got. I think we fucking bodied CLG a bit. That's when I played against SK that had the Nico standing in, and we ended up playing them like 3 times, and we beat them 2 out of the 3 times, which they had a stand in. Either way, that was fun for me. Anyway, that's just an anecdote. I think there's something. So I know I was getting, before I was going off at Skyesports, I kind of should have saved that energy to talk about online, because this is something that we don't really talk about online tournaments on this show. We rarely talk about tier 2 Counter-Strike. Like occasionally, if there's some interesting names, we might dip into it, but we don't talk about online CS, and unless it's something like this as an example, right? Unless it's like a big qualifier or something's happening along those lines. This might be a boomer old school mentality that's carried through, but I would say most of the current day players probably still feel the same. The reason, or maybe not the reason, online holds nowhere near the level of prestige to LAN. It's not in the same conversation. LAN is the purest form of Counter-Strike. LAN in an arena is the most exciting form of Counter-Strike. LAN in general, like when they're in their own rooms, like that for me is like kind of feels semi-online, but at least everybody has their own. Everybody is on the same network, and everybody's in an environment that is not familiar to them. People might remember the like meme during the pandemic, and I'm gonna fuck this up, but it's like sitting in your bedroom, like sipping Coke or something, right? I forget exactly which one it was.
Yeah, that's
Coke
the
Zero.
Like, yeah, whatever. But that kind of gag. And the thing is, when you rock up to LAN, you have to see your opponent, right? You're playing in an environment that you're not comfortable with. The chair might not be right. The table might not be right. You can't get the monitor to sit how you want to. You can't go take a dump in your toilet. Maybe you're a little bit nervous about having to take a shit in a public toilet. Like, I'm being serious. You know, there's things, maybe you're jet lag, maybe you're this, maybe you're that. LAN is the same environment for everybody. It's the purest form. Everyone is on the same PC. Everyone is on the same monitor. Everyone has the same table. Everyone has the same chair. Everyone is in the exact same environment. And you're playing on an even playing field. An even playing field is part of this purest form that we're talking about as I fucking spit everywhere.
I think it's even that it's more the opposite that is the problem, you know, that's like everybody just shows up to the LAN, you know that you're there, you've traveled there, the stakes are completely different just by virtue of being in a different place. Like everybody when they're playing online just doesn't have the same feeling as when they're out playing a big tournament, right? So even the opposite way is the case. It's not just that LAN is so much superior, it's just like nobody really gives a shit online.
I mean, there's a banger comment from Claymeister. You can't light a cigarette right after winning the game.
You can't even vape while you're playing either.
That was so funny. Did you see that clip from Siren?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Like, I can imagine the producer being like, okay, go to Siren. No, go away from Siren. Go with anyone. It's like, the dude's just like...
We saw it often, though. Like, whenever somebody... Like, Flamus was vaping. Flamus was vaping a lot. And, like, every time he took it to his mouth, this guy just cut away instantly. It's just so funny.
Yeah, but like the long and the short of this is online, like from a pro player perspective, is especially if you're like Rain, for example, or Guardian, or some of those guys, it's fucking laughable, mate. Like online Counter-Strike is just seen as a fucking joke. When you talk about Counter-Strike particulars, I'm not talking about the tables and the monitors and any of that anymore. I'm talking about the decisions that you make under pressure. And this is the same conversation when we talk about group stage merchants as we talk about guys who do it on the stage. It's the decisions that you make, or it usually is the decisions that you don't make because you're fucking scared. You become one of Striker's favorite things, those pussies, right? You don't make those moves that you would traditionally make when you're at home in your bedroom, because guess what? You don't need to turn left and right to be held accountable by your teammates or your coach, right? You're making those decisions in a moment. So online, I don't mean to bang on about this, but I think it is important that we remind everybody, you cannot compare this to LAN at all. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't, I don't think we can draw hard conclusions, right? But we can definitely look for things that are going to take us one way or another, right? That, oh yeah, this looked good or this looked bad. But I don't think that if you're drawing hard conclusions based off of how Counter-Strike is being played online, that you're doing yourself a service. I think that's a negative. Now, do you guys want to say something more about this? Because I wanted to bring the dirt sheets in at this moment.
I'm just going to say one stat line. So 4 teams went to Belgrade to attend the HLTV Awards. Spirit, G2, Navi, Vitality. All of these 4 teams won all of their online games traveling to Copenhagen. Some other teams probably had equal amount of time, maybe even more time to attend, didn't attend, try harding at home, eliminated. You can make your conclusions out of this. I think, like, just like everyone is tweeting online that like Heroic is the #1 best coaching ever. Gamer Legion losing, also best coach ever, just because they lost, I guess, online. I think based on these stats that I have predicted here, I put it out. Attending HLTV Awards just brings success, because that means you're chill guys with cool vibes that don't give a fuck. And these guys,
it's a good team bonding experience.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. All right. Let me link this one. Lucas, you're going to have to be bringing up threads, unless I don't want to share. You're not going to make me share. You're going to do it, Lucas. Bring up this one first and foremost. Let's get this one, because this is what we were just talking about. So, guys, we're going to be heading into the dirt sheets, which is where we go into Twitter, Reddit, HLTV, and we talk about the fun stuff there. And we're going to be talking about Well, a lot of different things that happened from the people's opinions at home. I'm going to need to somehow get onto my fucking WhatsApp and do all that shit while this is going down because I didn't do that beforehand. But this first one, when Lucas brings it up, this one is by Mindsets. And Mindsets, his thread says, online is this, online is that. How about we start calling people that can't play the game properly in their own rooms offliners? Players like Nico clearly can't perform at the same level online as they do on stage. Just look at Xantares. Legendary star player bullied Nico online. Meanwhile, Nico can actually keep up with him on LAN. To me, it's clear Nico is an offliner and can't use sound to his advantage or has hearing problems, maybe. Gentlemen, any takes on this?
This is 100% a bait thread. This is a bait thread. I rate it 8 out of 8 because it's good. It's pretty good. It's on the limit of you're not sure if he's trolling or not, but I'm pretty sure this is a troll, but I like it. It even though it's a troll, HLTV forums people don't really want to just write their opinion honestly. They're just gonna write it they're gonna invert it and then put it through some funny bait filter to put it out. But essentially, what this guy is saying is 100% correct. But if you translate it to human language.
To human language. Striker, do you have any strong feelings about this?
No, it's amazing. I think I 100% agree.
100% agree. Wow.
I mean, we should call people offliners. We actually do. We just think it's cool.
Don't we call them LANers?
LANers.
Or they can. We always used to use DIOL. We would say dial. Do it on LAN. That would be something that we would throw around a lot. Okay. So this next one, Lucas, I'm going to link. Now, I think the link I'm going to give you is going to go directly to my comment. But this one is a great one. Now, this one is also someone who's I believe they're being sarcastic, which is great because this is going to highlight a lot of the overreactions that we're going to see in one thread, which is great. We get to kind of dial things in and we get to take a look at this. And I know I'm trash fam. I let him know in his thread that we were going to be using this on HLTV tonight. I didn't reply, so I'm a little bit disappointed there, but maybe with the American flag, went to bed at that time. So this thread by I know I'm trash fam is titled One Tournament. No excuses. It's been literally only one online tournament, but everyone had a break and should have practiced, and the teams should have just worked if they were actually better. We got a great look into exactly how the rest of 2025 will go. EliGE is inconsistent and FaZe are done. I'll pause here. Let's start there, gentlemen. EliGE being inconsistent and FaZe are done. Do I have any takers on this one?
I mean, obviously, it has to be true. I mean, realistically, online, again, 2 games played, 50% great, 50% bad. Must be I don't know, very conclusive evidence that we have here. Overall, honestly, I do expect EliGE to not be Omega consistent. I don't expect him to be the pillar of consistency on this team. I do expect him to be sometimes really, really good. His floor also not bad, but I do expect him to go up and down. That's kind of the nature of his game and has been over for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Striker, any opinions on FaZe and EliGE in general?
What did you guys think about EliGE roles and how he performed? How they're using him more so, because I didn't look that much in depth into this.
I know that there was they were talking about Ancient a lot because they put EliGE on A anchor, right, effectively. But they were playing a lot towards mid with him. He was switching a lot of positions even in that. So it seems like it was going to be one of those situations where he might be, he might define as an anchor, because he plays that position. But he obviously plays it very differently, and he's being used kind of across the board in different ways in maps. So I don't think even in those positions that don't necessarily fit him, they're still finding ways to make use of him. So I didn't see the second game. I didn't see the game that they lost. I only saw the first one.
They toured by Pain on Dust 2 and Inferno. They played M80, which had Keto standing in for Rek, right, who injured himself and was unable to travel. They won in 3 maps over M80. They won on Ancient, and they won on Dust 2, losing on Inferno. I think to that point that Striker brings up there, EliGE also mentioned that in I think the post-game interview that they were doing, where he's like, yeah, I think he was saying to Banks, it's like, it's ancient, so the A anchor plays a lot of mid, right? Because the AWPer can pick that up, or you can start nobody A, right? But he was also doing a lot of A main pushes. I think that sentiment is true, right? That you can be quite versatile with your individuals, but that will stop eventually. Let's do like another relationship example here for everybody. The magic will disappear eventually unless you work at it. Right. And with a team at some points in some tournaments, you're going to be more complacent with those ideas. They're not going to be as free flowing. Right. It's not going to be as awesome as it always is. And right now, this is them in the honeymoon period of the team coming together. So very early, it's going to be super try hard. There's going to be lots of ideas. You're going to be throwing a lot of things. But eventually, everyone will get used to the routine of what the team brings. And then I think that'll slow. I don't like the fact that EliGE, with as good as he is giving over certain positions to somebody who should move more into those anchor roles, and that's Frozen. I think that Frozen should be moving into those anchor positions, and I think that EliGE should be taking those positions, and I think that he should be the one getting priority, to be honest with you. Like, I think like that EliGE, and people are going to say, yeah, but Frozen was higher in the rankings. Frozen hasn't won anywhere near as much as EliGE. I think EliGE also has much better aim, and potentially a higher fragging output in those aggressive CT positions. So I don't like... we obviously haven't seen many maps, right? We said Dust 2, Inferno, and Ancient. We need to see more tape. So I'm not drawing hard conclusions, but I would like to see EliGE in more positions where he gets to take over some of these spots. But that's, again, I'm happy to learn more. So yeah, we can work that out with time. All right, continuing on the thread. VP is washed. So
I think
VP,
that you could have said that. You could have said that at any point in the last year, and I think everybody would be like, "Yeah, okay, fair enough."
How can they even be washed?
They lost to Vitality.
Yeah,
how can
barely,
they even
barely
be,
to on train at least.
How can they even be washed? How can they even? That means that they were good, and then they're washed, right? That's the implication of the term washed. They haven't really been good the whole last year, and they just made 2 changes. So it doesn't even make any sense. Like overall, not too bad. Like the Vitality game was pretty contested for playing against, I would say, a top team. They're one of the top teams contender to win this title and upcoming titles, right? So I think it wasn't a bad showing from VP overall.
Sorry, I'm just gonna start pandering in chat right now. People are saying that I'm like a politician, and I say what people want to hear. So guys, vote for me. Talent of the Year 2025. Let's start now. If I start now, we might be able to take down James Banks. All right. I'm not going to tweet in Portuguese, and I'm not going to pander to the Ukrainians. But we, together with Twitch chat, we're going to get this done, guys. All right. Start voting now. Open the votes, Prof. We're going to make CS great again. All right. Thanks everybody for the time.
Go.
So
let's go.
VP lost, beat Complexity. They beat them on Train and Dust 2. Complexity tried to pick Train. Classic JT. Little move there. You got to expect it. And then they lost to Vitality on Inferno and Train. Now, the Train game, that was one of the ones I'd like to watch the Train matches because I want to see how the meta is going to evolve. The Train game, here's the second half for everybody. The first half, Vitality CT side. They won the first half 9-3. Vitality swap over to T side. They win the pistol 10-3. They barely win versus the Force of VP 11-3. VP Force again because game's almost over. They win that Force. Then Vitality Force buy back. Vitality swat them away. Vitality taking Eco. VP win that. We're at 11-6. There's a 1v1. I think Flit wins it. Scores 11-7. Vitality half buy. Tech 9s and shit. They lose that round. 11-8. Another 1v1. I'm pretty sure Flit wins it. 11-9. We're now at 11-9, guys. Think how close this game just got out of fucking nowhere. The score was just 9-3. Next second, Mezzy almost wins a 1v3. Now it's 11-10. Still in Vitality's favor. 11-11. A convincing gun round win from VP. Then a hero AK where Zawu gets 2 kills and ropz gets 2 Deagle kills. And then Vitality win their 12th round. And then final round of the game. It's the first gun round win for Vitality in the half. And they win it in a 1v1. There you go. You don't need to watch the game anymore, guys.
The next to last round, by the way, Zawu gets 1 kill like while being flashed just because he's spraying at a guy who's like behind the guy he kills. So even they probably should have lost that game, to be honest.
No, I was watching that. I think I was like, I don't know if I was cooking or eating, and I was like watching the first half. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of it. Then I saw like the comeback happening, and literally I was certain that VP made the comeback because like all of the rounds they were just winning. I turned around, the game was over. I'm like, why is Vitality smiling? I thought they lost, but no, they managed to like scrape some weird rounds at the end.
Yeah,
to,
lost the rounds.
Yeah, to get it.
Yeah. But it was. I have to say, I was literally rewatching that game now because I did that. That's one of the trains that I missed. And VP actually did have a really good CT side. It seemed like a lot of the time they stacked B exactly at the right points. Like in 2 of those gun rounds that you were talking about that Vitality lost, they stacked B. I don't know what tipped them off or if they had some info on the side that I didn't notice, but they seemed like they had a really good they had a really good read on Vitality in some of those rounds. So it seemed like a really well played game from them on the CT side at least.
This might bring us into a bit of a train
side, by the way, though.
conversation.
Yeah,
No, it was very Ivy centric early.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
So we can probably just like
this. Yeah, I was just gonna say like they were trying these kind of early Flamos plays out of T main, right? And a couple of times it worked. A couple of times he just walked up and like died because it's just, you know, you're going for a heads up play. Maybe the guy that was supposed to be flashed wasn't flashed. I don't know if there's some missed utility or whatever. But it just didn't seem like there was a lot of depth on that T side. Like early on, yeah, they were like 3 rounds or something early on. They were doing like 3-man, 4-man Ivy pushes. And I'm like, what's the idea behind this? You know, like what's the end goal here? And it seemed a little bit one-dimensional or just kind of lacking. So I'm not sure what their T side ideas were like.
I liked the idea with the Ivy play because just so everyone's aware, if they were watching the games and they're a little bit curious with Connor and Mohan and Harry and Hugo with the casting of, there's a position name that they are calling Icon. And when we were all playing train together in Romania, when we were doing the RMRs, I believe it was, that position, right? So it's technically 5 lane if you're an old school train player, but it's that opening that then goes back into Ivy and old bomb. So now it's converged on that one position. And
like
they called
next
it
to what we had called camera, was it like that position just behind the side, but like next to it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you used to molly back there, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah. That position, so they titled when they were playing pugs together and stuff in 10-mans, they called it Icon because of Ivy and Connector. So they called it Icon. So if you guys weren't familiar with why they were calling it that position, that's the name that they've come up with it. Now, one of the things that I think was interesting, because the reason that those Ivy plays might have legs eventually, or we'll have to see how it evolves if the map gets updates or whatever, is when you do a deep Icon smoke, one that kind of like pops more back into the lane, it blocks off vision not only from the bomb train to help Ivy, and also from old bomb, that deep line you can get from old bomb into Ivy as well. So then if you're playing over towards Hell, you can still obviously have vision, or you're playing, I guess, like Cold Zero. Everybody remember Cold Zero playing in the back lines, watching Ivy from those angles. That would kind of be the crossfire that you'd have to be set up with. So by throwing that smoke, you could also phase through that smoke, right? And you could use that against them. So I thought there was some interesting ideas there, especially because most of the time the CTs are only going to have one player there and crossfired with a bomb train player or maybe a Hell player, but that Hell player is going to have tougher angles, especially if there's pressure from main. And that can make sense if you can get a good timing on it, because teams on the CT side on rifle rounds are going to play for pop control or team main control. And they're going to do with that 2 to 3 players. And then you have one guy B and one guy just kind of caretaking Ivy. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah. But I think that people don't really play from Cold Zero anymore just because of the lack of connection from the old bomb, because you can't really make it back onto the site unless you go all the way around. If you get cut off, you get kind of screwed.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you're doing that smoke, Mezzi played from there a couple of rounds against VP, right, and was able to shut them down early, and he crossfired with Apex. And Apex actually was prepared for them lurking through the smokes. But I agree with you, right? Playing that position, you can't now just come out like 6 lane and help your teammates. You're actually much more isolated.
If you're smoked off, you're literally you're completely irrelevant in the round for whatever 15 seconds probably. Like you can't do anything from there.
That's a good thing in a way. In my mind, that's a good thing. Because it now forces the CTs to make a choice.
Right, that's why people will probably not play there and then just leave the B guy to come back into CT and maybe cover it from there if, you know, Ts want to go kind of around the world through CT into B, you know, like that kind of a play that like is fairly rare, you know, so you're not going to want to play from that back there in the first place, you know, so you're going to have more of those setups you were talking about from like on top of side. There's going to be a guy who's either actually watching with kind of like not a crossfire, it would be more like a double up, right, in that situation. Or then flashing like we saw Apex with Mezzi. I mean, he kind of screwed them like 2 rounds exactly the same way. He just popped in the right time and they caught him off guard like literally in the middle of IV, and they just got screwed by a spray. So that's
Apex had some
kind of
really
how we
good
saw
setups.
it. Oh yeah, and same with ropz as well. Like if you saw how he was like always waiting in connector, and ropz was going aggressive in B halls, like through ramp, right? He was always holding a flash, waiting for ropz to tell him if there was somebody coming. You know, he was always ready to support, or not always. They actually had a lot of different plays there. It was Vitality played a nice CT side. I liked it a lot. They had a lot of different setups.
Jackie is just saying that I prepared an entire Excel spreadsheet to explain rankings, but then speaks complex CS without any visuals. I'm sorry, I'm on a laptop. I can't just like jump into CS and show like what I'm talking about. Otherwise, that we definitely would. So, sorry about that. I'm just a little bit hamstrung with my tech at the moment.
This is the problem of like raising expectations. Like if you didn't do anything before, it'd be fine. But now you did you did a Google sheet. Now you're expecting screenshots, videos. I don't know, handstands. How's that going, by the way?
I stopped doing the handstands. I just lifting the heavy things and putting them down again now. So but yeah, I like the interest, like the way I think there needs to be updates. I like the way that when we were talking about in the last episode, I was talking about how the previous spawns, the T's, you know, you had to kind of stifle them to get stuck in Olaf, whereas now the timings mean that you can get them stuck in main. But I like the way Complexity addressed that against VP. So they would scale past it, stay in main, wait for the HEs to go off, then they would rally flashes over and Grim and stuff would come out. I just call it like a second tempo, right? Like it's not your first timing, but it's pretty close. Like it's just, you just skip that beat, nades go off, bang, flashes come, now we go. Because the CTs are scaling to take the space and they think their nades will have stopped us if we're rushing, but we come out on that second tempo and then we catch them. And Complexity did that in a couple of rounds. So yeah, there's some cool ideas that people are working with. It's going to take a while before we see what the most dominant approaches in the meta are.
I think that's like last time I was talking about how I was expecting it to be a bit more one-dimensional. I think that was partly because I was kind of still counting with the old spawns, so I didn't really see how it worked out with the new ones. Because now it's much like you get into a team main much later, right? So CTs have a better way to stop you going into that, right? So it's a bit like those fast plays are not really possible because of that utility. You can only do it as you were saying, you know, you can wait out the utility or you can smoke it and then just flash through it, or maybe have one guy, you know, VP were doing that with Thomas, as I was saying earlier, you know, they had just one guy trying for plays out of the smoke, you know, being flashed over and stuff. But the reason it's like one-dimensional now, it seems like, is just because they removed the fast play through ladder or pub dog, because there's none, that you have to go such a long way around that it's effectively impossible for you to run anything fast from there. You can't really do it out of team main now because of utility. You know, you're just going to get stopped every time. You kind of have to do it delayed, right? So it feels like fast plays are very, very limited on this map at the moment, because B site is kind of the same as it's always been. There's still kind of a lot of the same utility that just stops from both ends, really. You know, you stop as a T, you're throwing that molly to ramp, you know, so to stop the CT from pushing up. We even saw like double ups from ends. That was kind of cool, you know, that they screwed Magic there like twice with a little nade combo when Magic was pushing up ramp, you know. So that actually B side to me works very, very similarly. I think the only difference is there how CTs now have an option to like do this double up through what would have been ladder, right? I don't know what we're calling it now. That little hallway that's leading instead of ladder, that's leading to B halls, right? So that option now gives CTs the chance to just crunch B halls now, because they have like a guy from platform, or a guy from catwalk, or a guy from ramp, squeezing the brown halls guys or B halls guys with the two guys who are pushing up from ladder. I think there was Vitality were doing that somebody else was doing that I can't remember now. I think Ants were doing that as well in that game against Falcons, you know. So there's more options for CTs, but it feels like Ts are a little bit hamstrung in how fast they can enter any of these regions, really.
I was surprised to see teams burning Molly HE combo as they're running through brown walls for low ramp pushes, which I understand because it is viable, like with the way you can take that initial fight. But like, I guess to get that control, because not only are you blocking the B push, you're making sure you can get pop control or at least fight for that space. So I think that's curious. One thing that I would like people to go and do is when I tweeted out like a crazy thing, like let's change the spawns here so Ivy can be more active. And like, that was just a stupid thought that I had, and I don't know if it has any legs. You'd have to measure the timings and everything. I don't want to get into that conversation, but a lot of people linked me a video by this guy called Cherry5. And I'll be honest to the bloke if he does listen to this. I didn't actually play any audio, so I don't know what he said, but I watched the video which highlights the changes that he has suggested to make a better version of Train. So I don't know what his rationale was for them, but his YouTube channel is Cherry5EN. I think that you guys who are listening right now should put this, like, bookmark it and go and take a look at it after. It's only an 8-minute video. It's called I've Made a Better Version of Train 2025 in CS2. And I would go and take a look at that video and look at some of the ideas that he's suggested within that video, because I think that some of them seem pretty cool. And some of them even address some of the complaints that we've heard from other people about the verticality of the map kind of being eliminated in certain areas. So I would go take a look at that. Can
you give us one example of what he did?
I can say them. I still would think that people should
Just
go and watch the video because you have visual representatives.
If you don't give me a teaser, I'm never going to go,
So
but also if you tell me everything, then I'm also never going to watch. So be very careful.
Pop Dog, Pop Dog? Okay, so instead of it being like he still has the same like corridor drop in that Valve have currently got in there, but what he did was he opened up the hole like where you would normally go down the ladder and you can just drop in. So you're full commit, right? Like you can't go back up, but if you wanted to rush pop and drop in and take that fight, you could. So there was one of the things.
Yeah, he also opened up. I was looking at it at the beginning, and he also opened up from Ivy. Like instead of having to go all the way through Ivy, he opened up like a pathway earlier in the hall, effectively, to go right into the A site where Hell would have been in old 1.6 Train. I forgot so many callouts on Train because we haven't played it for so long that I don't even remember what things were used to be called.
Well, I think just watching some of the Train, I do think the verticality feels completely like you might as well just take off the ladders from the Train. Like I don't see the point. It just feels unnecessary to go up there at any moment in time.
Well, you said you don't want all of the things, but the thing for the verticality that he added was so strikers bang on. But the thing that he tried to, like I said, I didn't listen, but the way that I understood it from what was on the screen was making that a high real estate position, because if you take that control through Ivy, you can get into Hell, and then he put a Heaven in.
He reintroduced Heaven from before.
So there's verticality there, and then that position gives you obviously the overview of the yard. I linked the YouTube channel in Twitch chat if people want to take a look, and I'm sure it'll end up in the YouTube comments when we end up putting this VOD up. People asking about dupreeh. Asked if he could come on today's episode. He's a bit busy with the family, everybody. So yeah.
You know what I like about the T side? I like that they opened up the little kind of gap in T main that allows you to throw some utility over to Pop Dog, because it actually, like, the only problem I have with that, you still can't really contest for it if you're a terrorist, because the T's can still beat the molly that you throw to Pop Dog, so they can still push through it. So we saw some of those double ups in the hall, right? That still worked, even though T's were trying to get control of it, because CTs can get ahead of it and T's can't get there fast enough to contest it, to actually, so they have to do it on a delayed timing. And so I like that they've opened that up, but they need to also give something to the T's to be able to be there faster, because I think then it's not really contested at the moment how it works. I don't really like that about the little new pathway from that they put in instead of ladder.
Yeah. I was looking at the stats. Interestingly,
do you think it'll be played 5 times?
It's been played 3 times, right?
4. You one more time in 7 matches, Prof.
I mean, I feel like we have really good odds on that. I feel like
really.
I feel like there's really good odds on that. No,
I don't think so.
7 games, 1 train, 1 opportunity. Who do we have? Who do we have? I have too many tabs. I have 7 tabs of Skyesports tournaments that were half of them canceled open. Blast Bounty.
I mean, Vitality played it. Who else played it out of the teams there?
And none of these teams picked it, right?
No, I think VP picked it into Vitality.
Once, Complexity picked it, and someone picked it into Falcons, and Fnatic also. So who knows? Maybe.
But Heroic could also technically. We'll see.
They also have a stand-in, so maybe they don't want to play Train.
Yeah, but maybe that's why they would.
True.
Just fuck it.
If they focus on it, yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. Have they been? Were they first banning it? No, it was Liquid against them.
Or
and then
because
3D
they
Max.
played Vertigo before, they have to play it, right?
Right. I was just looking in case, but it's an entirely new team, so who knows what their actual map pool looks like,
Cool.
I know, but still. Yeah, but they weren't banning it first. They even let it through and 3D to be decider potentially against 3D Max. So Heroic could be another one of those.
Yeah, I wanted to say currently 60% CT sided over all of the matches that have been played.
Makes a lot of sense. You know what's it just feels like they didn't do Twistzz any favors with all these changes. They opened up team main to be able to get out a little bit safer. But because of the timings, you can't really do that early anyway. And so it has to be on a delayed timing. And by that point, CTs have so much control over it that it's kind of difficult. So I don't know if they achieved what they wanted to achieve with that change. And also on B, by the way, like B plays very similarly to how it used to, except the little house on Heaven now or Catwalk or whatever you'd call it actually allows the anchor to play from such a nasty position that is so hard to clear. Like if you're coming down from map, you have like 5-7 different positions that you have to clear, and that guy will just see you first every single time. Like unless you flash him off, which is also difficult. Like it's just difficult to get that guy out because there's not that open space from Catwalk, from Heaven to clear that. So it seems so hard for Twistzz now to enter anywhere without being looked at from 5 different angles.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, other than flashing that position, what you're meant to do. I don't know how you'd molly it.
I wonder if
way.
there's a world that you can molly it through the gap above the 3 train,
or even if you're you don't have to be fully exposed high ramp, but you could be in the archway, right? So you can't get seen from like back bomb or Z. Maybe there's something you could throw. I haven't looked at that.
Yeah.
So,
but it is very that is such a nasty position. It is so.
Someone said you can molly it through the gap. Well, there you go.
Can you?
Might have to be a priority.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in any of the games that I've watched. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's bring up that thread again, Lucas, because it has a few more outlandish things. There was more, but we're already at fucking 2 hours. I don't know how I managed to drag this on. I apologize, everybody. We won't worry about talking about Katowice today. I don't know if we'll get to it next week, but I think we should focus on what's ahead of us, which is going to be Bounty this weekend. So just a few more of these here, and we'll fly through. Liquid should just disband. Now, Liquid did lose to the Heroic roster, and there was the Saw clip of him, saying the T-Set's easy when JKS is in cave. So
and they didn't even abuse him. They only played like 2 rounds into him, and they did fuck him there twice, but they didn't really abuse him there.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, I was looking at some comments and stuff about that. I think people would be surprised. Like, I know it doesn't get a lot on the comms, but that kind of banter, or like, I guess bravado, is like a thing that you would pretty commonly say, like to kind of G your team up a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if people remember one of those field of view things that ESL did. It was like, I don't know if it was Twistzz or whatever, but it was against G2, and I forget which game it was. But it was Mirage.
Jax.
And it's like, Jax is the fucking worst at holding A or whatever it was, right? From like Twistzz. So like players, especially in the heat of the moment and stuff like that, these things are going to get said. It's like people aren't.
But it's also that like you just want to hype up your team, whoever's going to go face him, right? And you're going to be like, yeah, that guy fucking sucks. Go get him, Like it's like you're going to say those things. It doesn't mean that you actually think that. It can just be like a way for you to prop up your team, as you said, yeah.
But you might actually think it too.
You might actually think it as well, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about field of view. What happened to the Cologne one with Vitality?
I've actually replied in a thread about that to people on HLTV, because someone was looking for it, and I said to them, so it got pulled, as far as I understand, because ESL didn't want to air it while those teams were at the major, because they obviously ESL aren't trying to sully relationships with these teams, and if it comes out and anything gets revealed in the comms that they're not happy with while they're at the major, that's not fun for anybody. And then I think what's happened is they've gone back to rework some of it, but we've been over the Christmas break, so people are in and out of the office. But I've been told by FGW, Mr. Frank, that it should be out just before Katowice. So I would expect it within the next week, unless they do it before the playoffs. But yeah,
I would just be sad if it got canned, because I know it's a 1 hour or something video, and that's an insane amount of work. So good about that.
Yeah.
So we're just finishing this thread, or are there more?
Yeah, look, there was other ones, but if we keep going, we'll be here all night. So we'll just fly through this.
Not really on liquid. Not really on liquid.
Okay. Modesty number 2 in CS. Nah, number 2 shift lead at McDonald's.
He had like one-off map. What are people going about?
That's a
And they
banger.
qualify for the LAN. Snacks banned for griefing. Well, that's also G2. BB team is back.
That
and
was actually
Spirit's
there was a
only
clarification
regional
about that. Did you
competition.
see that? About the snacks thing? Because there was the round
the
in Inferno,
round.
you know, where
Yeah, I
they
saw it.
posted like
Yeah.
last 7 seconds or something, and
Yeah.
and Stacks was talking about it on the desk afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, I told the team like we shouldn't go. It's like it's too late. We should just save." And somebody in the team was like, "We have enough money. Let's just try." And he's like, "Of course we look like fucking idiots."
Yeah. No, I
So
did
there you
catch
go.
that. I did see that. Pain number 1 in Brazil confirmed. Look, there was just so many. I think the general reason that I wanted to do this tonight is because the general amount of takes that I saw on Twitter, Reddit, or the forums. Now, forums, you guys get away with it because, like, I'm expecting you guys to say the stupidest shit possible. You've been saying the stupidest shit possible since HLTV's fucking existed. So, I mean that in a nice way. But when I saw some of these things, like the conversation that I saw about Saw, it's like, oh, Saw needs to be getting the recognition. He's such a good coach. He's done it again. It's like, when has Saw not gotten recognition? When he was in the team with Snappy, Snappy's talking him up. The big boss, little boss. We're talking about him as a good coach since then. He just did it with the last iteration of the team with Shush and Twistzz. They were still competitive. It was still a good roster. And then I see this dialogue again by people who should know better on Twitter. And I'm like, what? Are you just tweeting shit for the sake of fucking tweeting shit now? Like, is that not an opinion that you actually hold before this thing? It's like, if you didn't hold that opinion before, I'm a little bit worried about you. What do you mean Saw needs to get the credit? It's like, Saw already had the credit. He's one of the best coaches we have in the game. What the fuck am I reading, man? Just the amount of drivel that I was reading, it was blowing my mind. I couldn't believe some of the takes. It was like, of course he's a good coach. What are you fucking saying? Are you just tweeting for the sake of tweeting? Can't, like, fuck me.
Yeah, I mean, we had him as Snappy as like the best IGL and coach combo, like up for discussion from 22. You know, so like obviously he's pretty highly rated.
Yeah.
I not sure really what to say, but I'm just I don't know. It's funny. It's funny.
It's fun.
Just the coach of the year discussion. People are talking about it in chat now as well. Is like, oh, why isn't what's his name, bro? I'm blanking. Gamer Legion. Ash. Why isn't Ash nominated for coach of the year? Like, what would he be coach of the year? Tell me a guy that like qualified for the major. That's the best he did in this year. He should be coach of the year versus coaches that have won majors, won multiple tournaments, been like in 5 finals in a row, 6 finals in a row. How can he, how is that even a discussion that no, that doesn't make any sense. So could he maybe have been mentioned in top 10 somewhere? Yes. But the goal of this is to find the top 1 and maybe the top 3. And I don't think he fits in either of these realistically. So, and then not giving credit to Saw. Of course, he has never won coach of the year, but he has been top 3 in 2 of the last 3 years. The only time he hasn't been is last year when objectively his teams have not been that good. Obviously, he needed to realistically start from 0. And these are all difficulties. But did he do better than Hallie with a rookie that Hallie helped become player of the year? Can you say that Saw did something better than that last year? I think that's absolutely crazy. Obviously, Blade's year as well with this lineup, insane. And then whoever, Cyclone was top 3 as well. Also, pretty young team. So I don't know really what to say about these things. I'm just, how many coaches can be coach of the year? How many coaches? How many coaches can be coach of the year? How many?
Give them for which country they're from.
7 coaches of the year, bro. Coach.
Look at this one.
Yes.
Prof, look at this one. Why separate Blast Bounty? LOL HLTV separating the event just so Donk doesn't break his own record again, 1.70. Striker, why are you doing this? Why are you separating the events? Why do you hate Donk?
Yeah, simple reason is part of it's online, part of it's on LAN. And literally, I don't think we have a solution for it to be one event and for us to recognize, like separate the matches as online or LAN. So in stats, it would show up as one or the other and not both. And I mean, just generally, it's pretty obvious that it's 2 stages, right? So,
okay, I got another one. Bring this one up, Lucas. Here's another. This is just some of the shit. Like I wish I was grabbing everything that I was seeing the whole time. It'd be wild. Luke is going to bring up a tweet in a second. This one here is going to be so much fun. I like this one right here. This is what I was saying from people who should know better. It's coming, guys. So is Christmas. Axel back the second he plays with a good in-game leader. He was playing with fucking Boomich
with the same in-game leader.
What are we talking about, guys? What are we saying? Are we just talking for the sake of talking? What are we doing?
Hashtag noticing. This just kills it.
I'm losing my mind, everybody. I can't. It's fucking cooking me, some of this shit I'm reading. I got to stop reading it. It's got me on edge.
Reading's bad for you. Copyright chat, SPUNJ
blood
Burchill.
pressure's going through the roof. Okay. Let's move on. Let's talk about the fucking top 8 teams. All right. Fuck me. Okay, the top 8 teams.
Breathe it out. Breathe
it out. We've got as Prof highlighted, the 4 teams who attended the award show. Guess what? They're there. Spirit, G2, Na'Vi, Vitality. So
also,
good stuff to them.
Yeah, also, coincidentally or incidentally, they're the top 4 teams in the world, So attending awards makes you a top 4 team in the world.
Technically, Furia also was there, but let's not talk about it because we're just.
But there are only 4 top 4 teams in the world. It can't be 5 top 4 teams in the world. They're just the one thought out.
Yeah, no, true. That is true. So with the qualifications from those 4 teams, and then as well as that, we have Pain, Eternal Fire, BetBoom, and Heroic. Now, the last 2 that I mentioned, BetBoom and Heroic, they're going to have stand-in issues. So they're going to have to use the likes of Nafany and karigan in replace of Boomich and Zorti. So there is no AWPA for BetBoom at the finals. So look, I don't know about you guys, but everything they achieved in the online portion of the conversation has nothing to do with how they're going to perform in the LAN portion. They're 2 completely separate conversations. Yeah. And the second conversation is a waste of everybody's time. The Heroic situation, Tania was unable to make it, and they're going to have Madden standing in, and Heroic also put out a statement today regarding why Nilo is not playing, and they announced some of the details around that. Obviously not going into heavy details, but Heroic are also going to have a stand-in. So for them, not great, because Tania actually had some really big matches for them where he was being a force. So those are the issues for BetBoom and Heroic. So I don't even think we bring them into the conversation, guys, which is not any disrespect to them, but if we're looking at the LAN portion...
Yeah, do you want to just do a little prediction of how the picks are going to go?
Well, we don't know. Oh, who's going to pick who?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
that's kind of
because it starts with BetBoom number 5 seed, right?
I was just looking at how it works exactly because I'm not sure.
Then Eternal Fire. I'm on the simulator right now.
Oh, okay.
I can share it.
I don't remember how it works with seeding at that point.
There are some numbers here, which I presume are the seeding, right? So
okay.
So then
I heard something about number 5 BetBoom, so it should be right.
Yeah. So then BetBoom picks first, and they can pick Spirit, G2, Vitality, or Na'Vi. I feel like G2, maybe.
Probably.
I feel like
at least
G2...
established, kind of at this point, maybe.
They had the shakiest moments, right? Like that big game on Ancient, for example, where they were down like heavily well, they were down the whole game really, but they were able to bring it back in the second 2, right? So I guess if you're looking at the shaky nature, but none of these are nice choices, right? Like I guess nobody really wants to pick Spirit, the major champs. I think Vitality have looked pretty good with the ropz integration already. Obviously they're going to have a lot more legs. So, well, okay.
Lucas is just gone.
He's gone rogue.
He's gone rogue.
I don't know. I think you're probably right. I think you'd pick G2, which sounds crazy, but I guess they've looked the shakiest out of everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, both of G2's games were pretty close, so I think it makes BetBoom G2.
Number 5 picks first, and then 6, 7, 8. So then we'd go to number 6, Pain. And you have Spirit, Vitality, or Na'Vi. And I don't think this is where it probably is more personal preference than any single team really being bad or extra good, to be honest. I probably want to avoid Spirit.
Yeah,
I feel like they've been most convincing. Then it's between Na'Vi and Vitality.
I mean, it's also. I mean, they're also taking into consideration map pools, right? And where they can get the best map. So it's at this point, it's kind of difficult to predict, right? Because we'd have to get into like what fits them most, which maps are they good.
Both Pain and, if I'm looking at this here, both Pain and Vitality ban Ancient. So that would give Vitality a free ban against Pain, essentially, or vice versa, right? So that might come into the conversation, whereas Na'Vi are going to ban Train. So it really depends on where Pain are at with Train, because this is the thing, because they could float Ancient through to the second phase, both of them could do, but I don't know if you'd want it to be the risk, because we've seen Pain pick it before. I think they did it against Imperial at the Major. Was it against the Major?
Yeah, so it could be exactly Vitality based on that, maybe.
Yeah,
they have the same
but
ban.
I would like to look at the track record and see what the history is like between these teams, but we don't really have all the time in the world to be able to do that here, and I don't know if they would have really faced off too many times, right? Because Pain, even though they play some good CS, they're not really playing against the uber elite all the time. There's a game here, IEM Cologne against Na'Vi, they got absolutely fucking owned. 13-4, 13-4.
Yeah, I feel like Vitality, Pain, and then Eternal Fire's next. They probably pick Na'Vi over Spirit. They also have some history with Na'Vi playing a bit.
Yeah.
I feel like that's... And then we have Spirit Heroic. I feel like that could be what we get.
Yeah, Pain haven't played any of these. They haven't played Spirit ever. This team, Spirits, and they played the other two and got fucked.
Boom G2, Pain, Vitality, yeah. I think Prof's on
Eternal Fire, Na'Vi,
Pain, Vitality, Eternal Fire, Na'Vi, and then Heroic Spirit. I think that looks pretty good.
I think Spirit does get left last.
Yeah, I think they should get left last.
Yeah, unless somebody has like some specific reason because of maps, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Spirit, like Magix has been keeping up pretty good form. I think Spirit, obviously, like being an established team, you would say gives you an advantage. But then I look with Mouse, and then it's like, well, Mouse, yeah, they got rocked by BetBoom, right? So, but it's not even the same BetBoom, so that it kind of dilutes that conversation as well. We're not going to get into the mud there. All right, fuck it. Let's do this, everybody, because we're really getting on here. I've been ranting too much tonight. Let's take a look at what are the odds. This is one of our sponsored segments for this evening. This one is brought to you all by 1xBet. We have the current one out there regarding if Train will be played 5 or more times at Blast Bounty. It's already been played 4, so it only needs to be played 1 more time. But this week, the question is, drum roll please, Pain, EF, BetBoom, or Heroic will reach the Blast Bounty Grand Final. What are the odds Pain, EF, BetBoom, Heroic will reach Blast Bounty Grand Final? So only need to be 1 out of the 4. What are the odds of this one happening? And I think based off of the matchups that we just put out there and the stand-in factor, I'd say it's pretty unlikely that Heroic beats Spirit.
Yeah.
I would want to say it's pretty unlikely that BB Team beat fucking G2.
With 2 stand-ins?
Yeah. And you lost your in-game leader and AWPer, and you don't have an AWPer.
No, it's not gonna happen.
So then it comes down to EF or Pain. Now EF
I could
against
see.
Na'Vi,
I could see for sure, yeah.
Yeah. What about Pain though?
I didn't see them play with Davido, so I'm not I didn't see that match or their matches.
So
they did beat FaZe.
Beat FaZe.
So I'll just talk my thinking through. So let's say Na'Vi EF is the game. I would say there's like 35% maybe for EF to win that. Then in that case, they would take seed 2 moving forward. Correct? Yes. So then
they take seed if you beat them. Is that still how it works for the top 8?
I'm
kind of looking at a striker here. I
honestly, I'm not sure at the moment.
It doesn't seem to change anything in the thing. So then they would still remain. They would remain lowest seed still.
No, you said they'd take seed 2, didn't you? Or are you looking at the bounty thing?
I'm using the predictor, but it doesn't really make any sense to me. Maybe it's based on bounty or something.
It says, oh, okay.
I don't know.
Actually,
because I clicked like Spirit, G2, Vitality, Eternal Fire to go through, and Vitality and Spirit are like 3 and 4, but they're already left side, so they're like higher seeds. I don't know. I'm a bit confused about this. But anyway, then they would need to beat a Spirit or a Vitality, which I would say is again 30-ish%. So 30, 0. Let's do calculator. 0.35 times 0.3. No, that doesn't.
So don't
yeah,
understand
that's
how
like
the
10%.
simulator thing works. It just
10%.
doesn't seem right. 10%.
15% because I'm adding like a few more percents for pain to go through. Let's do 15%. Chat is doing 26.
Okay, I was gonna go like
Chat
around
more
30.
generous. Yeah, so the problem is, I guess, if this are we assuming that the simulator is wrong, or are we
No, I
assuming that
think
it's
it's
right?
I mean, it's not.
I think it's right.
But
Draken,
I'm
you
not sure
seem
why.
not convinced.
Because it says the team is. I don't know if after you reach that, if it just says it goes by ranking or how it's decided after the quarterfinal points. So I'm not up to date on that.
So, but the simulator has it with them not taking the seed, doesn't it? Isn't that what you're saying, Prof? That
Yeah,
they
No, it
don't
does.
take the
No,
seed?
it does have
It
them
takes
take
the seed, but it doesn't change anything in
but
how it
then
works.
It takes the seed, but then it puts seeds 3 and 4 instead of 1 and 2, or it doesn't put seeds 2 ahead. So that's the big weird part about it, how it works. So yeah. Anyway, I mean, it depends obviously how the matchups work out afterwards. But I was gonna say something like 30 because I think Pain and Eternal
Someone
Fire.
says in chat, go back to the last stage. I'm just trying to read this. Go back to the last stage of Blast Bounty and just deselect. It keeps moving. I can't fucking read it. Deselect and select a team again. He says it will fix it.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. I don't even know what that means. I'm not on the website right now. I wish I had more screens.
I see it now. I see. Yeah, he's right. Because then it like actually reverts, and the teams who are picking are on the left side at that point. Okay, let's see. Good job.
Okay.
I would
Thank you
figure
very
that out.
much.
So Pain
Aslim.
Vitality, but between G2, Eternal Fire was Navi. No, Eternal Fire, Navi, and Spirit Heroic. Yes. So let's see. Let's pick them. So we were saying G2 win, Vitality win, then Eternal Fire win, and Spirit win. Then Vitality, well, it still shows C3.
Yeah, it's still bugged. I don't know.
But at
what's
least the
going on
first
here.
part is. I don't know what the fuck. I don't understand how that works. Then
Anyway, give
they're
us a
not
number.
repicking, right? At that point.
Give us a number.
I'll go with 30.
I think chat are pretty good. I think
Yeah.
they've actually done a decent
Yeah.
job with their 26%. So I'm just going to go 25%. I think that, right, I think it's very unlikely with the stand-in situations that Heroic and the likes of BB make it. Heroic, an interesting one. Like, yeah, I don't want to get the nitty and the gritty, but we can talk about that after the LAN finals. Yeah, so for me, it's really on EF. I think it's played too early for Pain. So yeah, I'm gonna go 25%. So there you go. We've all maybe we've lowballed it a bit, but I think EF are the hope.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, let's say like it's
look
the
alright.
bottom. It's the bottom half of the teams, right? Like, let's say they were on even ground, it would be 50-50, right? If one of these four made it, well, actually, would it be 50-50? Yeah, it should be,
I don't
right?
know, maths is hard, bro.
Anyway,
Yeah.
fuck it.
Add it together,
30%.
Lucas.
I'm usually kind of more scientific about it, but I just
Ooh.
CBA.
Yo, Turkish
So-
fans.
Well, this would be the time. Like, the thing is, for the guys at home, if they're wrong in the poll, they're wrong as the hive mind, but the hive mind are just looking to get as much honey as possible. So sacrifice a couple of polls, guys. Take the fucking risk.
What do
Think
you have
outside the
against-
box.
What do you have against Polish people?
The bees.
I understand.
Guys, yeah, here's what I recommend. I reckon weaponize yourselves out there on Twitter. Weaponize yourself on Instagram. Vote yes. What do you got to lose? $66? Come on. Get in there, guys. All right? I want you to just go crazy. See what you can get done. You may as well take the punt. Worst case, you'll probably win a couple of other ones. All right? There you go. There's my advice. This is, you're playing with house money right now. Where do you vote? There will be polls on Instagram, and there will be polls on X that you guys will be able to contribute your votes with. All right, that is What Are the Odds, brought to you, also known as presented by 1xBet. All right, everybody. We've been going for almost 2.5 hours. We had some fun. with the dirt sheets. Like,
Totally.
you know what I find funny, guys? You know what I find funny? I want to point this out. If I go off my tree, it's not baiting, it's serious. But if other people do things that are trolling, it's trolling, not serious. Why do I have to live with that double standard? Why do I have to live? Why is that double standard in my life?
Because you come from a position of authority.
Fuck.
And as you know from Donald Trump, you cannot be trolling and not be taken seriously.
I will be releasing my meme coin once we shut down this evening. It is going to be called SPUNJ coin. You guys will be able to get that, and we will be doing the rug pull in 3 to 4 days. So if you want to fund, I was going to say my progeny's future. I don't think I'll be having any of those. Maybe just a second house for me. That'd be great. So buy up, get your bags, fill your pockets, and we'll be going from there. People asking about Cato. If there is a chance, we were talking about this before we went live. Prof's going on vacation, so everybody needs to put pot friend in chat right now. So yeah, Prof's gonna be going on vacation, so we're gonna see if we can get an episode together from Cato. I don't know if it'll be before Cato, but there was even what I said was we might even be able to do a crossover episode with Talking Cato and HLTV Confirmed. Get Moses, Yanko, with Striker, and myself. Maybe we do it in a HLTV format of some variety. I don't know how we'll do it, but we'll see if we can get it together. But we'll have to wait and see because I don't travel until Sunday and I don't know what's going to be going on with everything around Katowice at the moment. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, gentlemen, is there anything that you'd like to say before we say goodnight to everybody today?
Shout out Imperial. We'll see them again.
Oh yeah,
in
we
Katowice.
talk about.
We never talked about Imperial.
We'll see them in Katowice again. There's going to be more to talk about. Not bad first impression. Honestly, probably better than all of us here. I'll say better than I expected. I'll say that.
I didn't see the game,
really
but the
better
scoreline.
than the vast majority of people expected.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't see it. It was past my bedtime, but the scoreline was better than I expected. All right. Let's wind things
did
up.
a little bit of a nice rundown if somebody wants to check out like how they played and a little bit of analysis on some of the rounds that they put up. And he said that they were playing a lot like by the book, and it was working out for them for good reason. He did like analysis of several rounds in a row. So Canadian Steel's Twitter, can go check it out.
Joshua Nissan, for those who playing
That's
at
him.
home. All right, shout out to the sponsors. 1xBet, remember to gamble responsibly, and Skin Place. If you're in the market to sell some skins, head over to Skin Place, see what you can get for your skins. All right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. Hope everybody likes spreadsheets. Unfortunately, we couldn't do any in-game stuff, but maybe we will in the future for Train. Check out the old Bad News Eagles coach. Actually, he's put out some good stuff with Train and how it's being approached. So if you want to go head over to his Twitter, what is it? Is it Strickle? Is that?
Stickle.
Where did I break the R from? Anyway, go and take a look. Good night, everybody. Well, it's only afternoon for you guys. Have a good day. Goodbye. See you next time.
The world is changing quickly. Shut up.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
It was more than a game. It was everything. Every single emotion on display. Not a moment missed. This was CSGO through the lens.